Squad.
Every time.
Gotta click on that button, Rich.
I clicked the button. It's you guys that need to get that thing together. How's everybody doing today?
Are we all grumpy?
Listen
Yeah.
to Bracken talk about shitting himself for the last 10 minutes before we started recording. So that put us in a good place to start, I would say, as a group. Wouldn't you guys say?
It kind of describes how we raced this weekend. So yeah.
To be fair, the only reason we were talking about that is because I had to leave the recording studio because it smelled so bad. It wasn't just like some random pooping my pants story. And I didn't poop my pants today. I want to be very
Jack,
clear.
Don't put that on all of us. We didn't race well this weekend. Bracken had a fantastic workout. I smashed a quality workout.
Popped it.
Was it a race?
Yeah. One half of this room crushed it this weekend, and one half didn't.
Top of the screen didn't.
Very much didn't.
Our screens are different.
Orientation of the screens are different. The right side of my screen. Yeah, it seems that
Team
it's
Colorado did not. There you go.
We did not crush it. We have lots of things to talk about today, fellas. Where should we start? Should we do wheel names to start? We should.
I should use the wheel names as often as possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You guys,
doesn't matter what it is. Yeah.
You guys talk amongst yourselves.
I would be willing to put Patreon money towards getting like a legit awesome wheel of names.
Like one of the Price is Right wheels. It just has 4 names.
I think we should all have one in the background that we can spin whenever.
Like a in-person physical one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
think we should have like some really small, like the bankrupt one, some really, really off the wall bonkers category that once a year someone hits it and the episode just goes off the rails because we have to do that one thing.
And as opposed to just like talking how we normally do and just ending up wherever we end up, actually planning to go off the rails.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically like Wheel of Fortune where you have that $10,000 one in between the two bankrupt, like the little sliver. But if it happens, it's got to go.
We got into the topics. We got Hyrox, Go Ruck, Spartan 3K.
What about hot takes? Is that another topic or is that just everything?
We'll do the hot takes in these categories.
Okay.
So are we supposed to read into the fact that you didn't capitalize Hyrox and you capitalized the others?
That's how I feel about the company as a whole. They capitalize all of them. I'm just doing the opposite of whatever they want to do for their brand. I even did the Go Ruck, the proper branding on Go Ruck.
Dang.
I think.
Yeah.
Let's spin this thing. The audio doesn't pick up on Zoom. The other one that we used could have been. All right, there we go.
Leading off.
Let's talk about the Spartan 3K. So we're lucky to have Jack Bauer here, who is down there in person. Jack on site, running that race. So Jack, I guess let's just start with it. Tell us. All right. Do you want to do your hot take first, or you want to do like a race recap first for us?
What do you think would be better? You're leading the discussion.
I think you should give us the 10,000-foot view to start, and then through your eyes. That's what I think.
Okay, and then you guys maybe give a little bit of what you guys thought of the coverage, all that.
We all got takes. We're gonna pop.
Yeah. Understand. I'll just give you the general atmosphere, and then we can go into the details after. But I was very, very surprised. You guys saw the athletes who showed up. Small women's field, men's field was actually pretty reasonably solid. Wasn't like as top heavy without seeing Lars and Atkins, some of the big contenders in the past there, Hawk, Ryland. But you had a solid group of people, but since this was a completely brand new format, no one knew how that was going to go. And there was actually a lot of nervousness about how am I actually going to make round 2? Like someone could pop off a good race and I just screw up on something and I'm in trouble.
You're saying your personal feeling, or just like in general, everyone
not naming names, but I would say the good majority of athletes, no matter how good they were questioning how easy it would be and how hard they're going to need to go out in order to make round 2.
Because the heats were pretty stacked.
That
wasn't an easy way in.
No, and it was completely random seating. So with the spacing of it, heat 1 goes, there are 3 heats. Heat 2 goes 2 minutes later. Heat 3 goes 2 minutes after them. You don't know what the time to beat is. You can't look at the the thing and be like, all right, I need to break 7 minutes and now I'm good. Like you literally are racing against the clock and there's no auto qualifier. So a lot of uncertainty was out there. So that was kind of a cool thing. Like you actually saw nervous athletes and the order wasn't kind of like predetermined for the finish. Like, if you're in a mountain course, Atkins is going to be on the podium. You're probably going to see the usual suspects up front. This was just a bunch of unknowns. It was 1,000 meters. See how well you can recover. Don't screw it up again. Some really punishing penalty loops. And yeah, it was just a general nervous feeling after the race. I got the sense that a lot of people liked the intensity of it. They didn't like the obstacle selection necessarily, but they liked you truly had to sell out to cross the finish line to earn your spot on the next round. But I think a decent amount of athletes wish that there was some more variety. But what it proved was transitions truly matter. The best transitioners were able to separate themselves throughout the race. Other fast athletes, yes, they stayed in contention, but they couldn't stick with some of the faster athletes who moved a little bit better, or in terms of obstacles. So yeah, that's kind of just the overview on like what I saw from the race being there. And it was really
almost can't even hear you because of your ear poking out of your ear cup there. It just,
we need to get you some new headphones, Jack.
how can you abide by that?
It's better for the show.
That's your first comment.
I didn't hear a word you said. I was just staring at your ear tip thinking like his tip's out. How does he even deal with
tip's
that?
out? Yeah, there you go. You like that better?
Got everybody adjusting. Everyone's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
No, I was just feeling how that felt. And yeah, there's no way. It's like having a booger hanging out your nose and not noticing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do
or
it too.
a fly on your lip.
Fly on your lip.
I'm not repeating it.
Yeah, so from the top.
Yeah.
BK. What were some takeaways from, or actually, I thought it was, we got to talk about this first. This is really where we should start.
And real quick, those were not hot takes. You asked me for the 10,000 foot view of like what the atmosphere was and everything. So that's kind of what it was.
This is really what we should talk about. The absolute butt kicking you guys were delivered for fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too put out here. We had 2 of our top 3 women not race. That's what happens. We would have smoked you.
I had Kempson not show up and Miranda DNF in the finals.
Was it the classic?
That kind of sucks.
That's worse than ours.
Yeah.
Well,
he just didn't show up.
You could have not drafted him like you should have.
I agree. I changed my pick to make VJ win in the prediction contest, though, so I was accurate there.
So, looking at this, what happened with Kempson? Was he just doing his normal thing, like just saying he was
got to the
something?
venue? Yep, and confirmed that he was in fact registered as well. And then walking to the venue, I see Miranda and Michael Suazo, and Miranda's like, "Oh, by the way, Kempson's not going to be here. He's in North Carolina for something right now." I'm like, "Of course, that would happen."
Didn't he post about going?
I thought he did because I remember doing some comments on a Spartan post when they were showing the 3K series and they hyped up VJ, and I said you might as well just put his name on every single first place plaque. And then Kempson was like, we'll see about that. And like that kind of gave some vibes
within the last week he posted.
Yeah, I don't know. People change their mind. Just never gonna get a straight answer.
So I had the classic cross country sweep. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 15 points, boys. 15 to 45 is what I gave you to you. Kinda. Is that the blowout score? What's this? Is it, or
Julie Best was MVP?
Julie Best really came through.
She was her last name says it all. She was the best performer.
Sarah Rich came through as well.
Those Same last name as yours first.
Keepers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, my team really brought it with VJ, Yanka getting second, Julie Best third, Batris, Nick Mask, Sarah Rich, and Suazo finishing that thing out.
If I took VJ instead of Kempson, that's a 16-point swing for you right there. And I lost by 13, so kicking myself. Because now your 17th would have scored. But
what? But I just don't get VJ and
no, you probably would have taken Kempson next, and then he wouldn't have shown up. But whatever. I'm just kicking myself in hindsight. You won.
I wouldn't have taken him. I knew the deal. I knew the deal.
Yeah.
And then this was the thing that I was trying to get us to not do. Jack wanted us to have all the women score with the men. BK first didn't want that and then decided he did want that. So I don't feel bad for the outcome for the corral. Should have backed me. That's what happens.
This the highest score in race brain history.
Oh,
62.
no. Do you see me in Abu Dhabi?
It's ugly.
We're slow out of the gate.
I'm trying to
I'm
figure.
not worried.
I really thought if I were a betting man, I was confident that we would be victorious. Who did we miss out on? Who on our team bailed? Casey Monroe,
Heather, I think.
And Heather.
Heather Golnick.
They both could have very well gotten second and third and fourth.
Third and
That's
fourth,
what you
I think,
say,
yeah.
but that women's heat was so wild just seeing it in person. Like they were dropping like flies on some of the obstacles.
Yeah. The obstacles that rig made a difference, huh? Jack, tell us about that. It seemed pretty tricky. I don't think we've seen a Spartan rig that challenging since ever.
It was not a JV rig, but it was not a hard rig. It was 100% passable. If you let your guard down and got a little sloppy with it, that's when people failed. Like even Leon, he fell off it because he was just trying to make like a quick move, and then just before you know it, his hand slipped, and he's like, "What? That's what happened to me." I fell off it. Second round, that kind of sucked. I was like, "Did that really just happen?" But what you did right before, you ran across some water, went into some actual rolling mud, and then dunk wall, and then there was a little bit of water in the barbed wire, not much, but your hands are still soaked. That barbed wire crawl, and then you get up, and 50 feet later, you got to go across this rig, and you're forced to touch the rope, which has like a 4-inch area that's not that coated plastic, and then it has a ball. And I personally, I know that I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna like palm this and then go on the ball and then go straight to the horizontal bar, but didn't happen, and my hand was not as strong as I thought it would be. And a couple other people, same thing happened. And I think in the women's heat, like 7 of the 10 women failed the rig and had to do a penalty loop.
They were trying to lachey past the ropes at the end. Several of them
did that. Yeah.
Yes, I saw someone miss. I think
Bianca did it.
Bianca was doing it every time through.
It was a double rope at the end as well, coming off the bar.
Right.
So
it was a ring.
Yeah,
it was a bar ring rope.
It was and it wasn't just the passability of it for the few people who, actually it wasn't just a few, it was for a decent amount who didn't make it through. It was like you saw Nicole go through that and you're like, that is how you do a rig. You see VJ do that, able to skip implements regardless. And other people, they're on it for 10 seconds longer. You do that 3 laps, big difference. So I think that they finally did a rig right.
I saw people grabbing above the ropes. Was that outlined? Not
Gary announced that. He's like, we don't like you doing it, but it's technically in the rules, so you can do it.
Oh,
That's not even worth
That's
saying.
It's so stupid. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, if you don't want to get criticized by the age groupers who don't like that, then don't do it. But you still
Do it the
can.
real way.
well, what I'm understanding, like in your case, Jack, you made a poor decision by grabbing the ball nonetheless, if it was a green light to grab the rope. But would that not have been a failure for you, and you thus would have been in the finals if you grabbed the rope, which it sounds like you could have?
I think that if I had not fallen off, I would have finished about 11th or 12th, and top 9 made the finals. Like Michael Suazo was one place out. He missed it by half a second to Adam Beach for making the finals. So I was not half a second behind Adam Beach at that point in the race. So no, I don't think that I would have made the finals. I would have probably been like 4 to 5 places higher though. But
I have a question.
The penalty loop was real. It was like almost a 200 meter or so. I didn't measure it out, but I heard people saying it was like a 200 meter sandbag carry.
With a carry. Yeah.
I have a question on this whole finals and point situation. Did they still give out all the allotted points for the series?
I don't even know. I haven't looked at it.
Like
I'll work on it.
Suazo, were there points available for 10th?
I mean, he is the 10th place finisher, even though he didn't race in the 3K final.
And so that's what I don't understand. I'm going to do my best to be very positive because I said I'm going to be positive. This is what it is. I'm staying positive, but I do have a curiosity.
But
if you have points available to be fought for, why didn't everyone go through to finals to have 15 in the final so that you could fight in the final for the points? I didn't grasp that because in hindsight, did you know that they were only going to take 9? And if so, someone could have just sold out to make finals knowing I'm guaranteed of 9th. Even if we made 15 in the finals, I might take 15th.
Yeah, they announced beforehand. They're like, all right, there are 25 or 27 who start. Next round, you're going to have 17. And then top 9 of those will make the finals. So they announced that before anybody stepped foot on the start line to start the day.
So you scored final points from the semis.
You locked it, yes. But keep in mind, They only have top 3 for prize money.
Yeah, I'm talking for the series points.
I'm actually not sure, Bracken.
Yeah.
Here is the...
That's a good point.
Here's the leaderboard, and it stops at Leon. So
Yeah.
I don't know if Michael Suazo did receive any points for this. Or the homie Jack Bauer. He might have got no points.
Dang.
Was it, so how many was 9? So there were what, like 20, how many men were there? Was it 27 then? They just kept slicing into
Something like that, yeah. And
Is
for
that just
women,
their rule? And the women, they just did 2 rounds, right?
yes, women,
Who's number 1?
This is with those leaderboards are stupid, so I sorted it by male, but it lumps everybody in.
Oh, all right. Let's go down now and see. Can we see men?
Just men?
Just men and count.
Men.
You want me to sort it by men?
Yeah.
filter, yeah.
Man. Yeah, then it just stops at Leon.
Leon got 9th, so
So why does it say Suazo was 9? As 10? Oh, Suazo was 10. Gotcha.
Suazo was 10 and wasn't in that final. That I don't think I like very much. I hope that is a mistake.
Well, so here's what I was thinking. I didn't want to say it on the live broadcast, but if you traveled here to go do all the other races, if you were the 15th best here, but you weren't allowed to go to finals, or 14th or 10th, if you're the 10th best here, you were not allowed to score any points. But if 20 more bad athletes showed up, you would have been allowed to go to finals and taken at least 10th, if not better. So they actually punished athletes who did show up because people didn't show up. Now someone maybe has to travel again. I didn't understand that move, that if they had 20 more bad people show up, Suazo would have scored points.
And say,
if they had 2 more bad people, and not bad's the wrong word.
I'm saying you could have the worst athlete on earth show up and he would have been rewarded for it. But good athletes didn't show up and he got punished for it.
Yeah. I mean, look who did make the finals. Like, it's tough to say that one of these guys, especially like just looking at that list, probably wouldn't have made it. But there were some close calls even getting into the finals.
Well, so track, if they have an 8-lane final, if 8 people declare, 8 people run finals, right?
Yeah.
Because they have the positions to give out. They give it out if you're there. So I guess I feel like that was maybe a rush decision that wasn't thought through. They screwed over someone's race series.
What does the
by
series
not getting
pay
points
out to?
I think it's like it's only top 3. It's like 5,000, 2,500, 1,000 or something. It's not a ton, but
it doesn't even go out. But still,
it's only
it
top
won't matter.
three.
For
no,
money.
it doesn't matter. It should be scored all the way down, but it most likely will not affect those getting money. But
yeah,
I agree with them not giving points and times to people who weren't in the final because that would be unfair. But I don't agree with them not taking 15 to the final.
Right. It shouldn't
All
be
9
just
women.
based off of like the half of people, like the amount that came and just needing to have these heats. They're like really set on having these heats to qualify people through, and it doesn't make a ton of sense.
And they did the same percent make the final, like top 50 from heat 2 make the final. They did the same thing for the women. So I think there were 10 on the start line. They said top 5, you're going to make it.
Yeah.
They announced that beforehand. And that's the same percent. Percent doesn't care how many you have. It's just, here's the top 50% of you are going to make it, not quantity.
So think about that. 6th place wasn't given away, but had 20 more people entered, 6th place would have scored points.
I totally see what you're saying. Yeah.
That's just going to be my complaint, or not complaint, concern.
Flaw. Yep.
Let's twist it in a positive light. Not a complaint.
Yep.
It's an opportunity for improvement.
Simply an opportunity to improve. Who on this list on the men's side are we most surprised about? Who we feel best about after this race?
VJ.
But like,
I know, but there was a lot of like, yeah, what's going on this year? And then he showed his boss.
a lot of overreacting for the first race of the year.
That's what people do. And I would say Manuel Defoe, seeing him in person, guy's legit. He definitely tried winning this race. And then Z-Wall got him on the third lap, or maybe, yeah, I think the third lap in the finals, but he was right there within a few seconds of VJ for almost 15 minutes of the finals.
I don't think he ran smart in the final.
No, he probably could have backed off a little bit after seeing the opening round. He's like, okay, well, I was 6:49 or whatever for 6:49.9 right there for his opening round. Maybe he could have gone a little bit holding back in the next round.
Because didn't he come through in that first loop on the final under 7 minutes still?
Oh yeah.
He like wasn't really backing things off. And you
I
could tell
think he raced it appropriately.
Yeah. I thought that was the right move.
I thought if you're going to come to the US, you might as well, like, regardless, he asserted himself, and it's like, all right, like, hello, I'm here, and now take me seriously. And I think the best way for him to do that, I don't know. I think I like, I don't know. People pay so much service to the best in our sport by like, oh, let them run up front, and I'm just going to key off of them. And I think coming into a race like this, which wasn't his to win and then lead, I don't know, take some cojones. Anytime I see somebody front run like that, it's the balls I wish I had. Even if it isn't the right decision, I admire it, especially on paper when he should not have been necessarily doing that. So I don't know. Gave me something to watch. I preferred it from a viewer standpoint, if anything.
Yeah, I've got to say though, since I jumped in and rabbited the finals because I couldn't help myself being there to help you guys out, I ended up just seeing almost all of that battle up close. And VJ's so patient. He was like, you could just tell he's like, not ready. Okay, now's my time. And then he did it. And before you know it, like I think it was on that inverted wall plus Z wall, just back to back. It's within 100 feet of each other. All it is going over an inverted wall and doing Z wall, and VJ gained 10 seconds right there and put him from a couple seconds down to a few seconds ahead entering the water. And now he's got control entering the water. So it's just cool seeing the tactics.
If I'm Manuel Defoe, I'm probably coming into this year thinking this is one of my last years left of the speed that I have. I'm going to atrophy every year. This might be my only year to win a Spartan Race World Championship. And if that's my end goal, VJ Jones is probably my biggest obstacle in the way. So he came out here and found out exactly everything he needed to know. If he slow played the race, he only would have known what happened once the move got made. But he went out hard, found I can run faster than him if I need to. He passes me on the obstacles, and I came up 6 minutes short of fitness. I think he leaves with the blueprint of here's what needs to happen if I have a chance at winning a world title. And I don't know if he leaves with that blueprint if he doesn't send it from the start. So I agree, this wasn't his best strategy to win, but if he wins the world title, I think it's because of this race.
And just to add on, the reason you're saying atrophy is because he's 43 years old. So
correct.
That's just for people who aren't watching the video of it.
And all the KT tape.
Did he make the trip for this race specifically, or is there some like Tour de USA that the foreigners like Kofid like to do sometime? Or did this dude come over here to do this race? What's the intel?
The second he came over with Janka. Both of them live in Switzerland. Janka's not originally from there, but she lives in Switzerland now. And yeah, they came over and raced, and then flew back Sunday night. Stayed a couple days in Florida, and I think Manuel is going to do more of the series. I thought he mentioned Palmerton.
I appreciate the positive spin that you guys are putting on his effort, but really, it's like in this circumstance, say it's like you run an 800, an 800, and then like, I guess we'll say you run like a mile to then qualify for an 8K, and then you go out in your 8K at your mile pace.
But he probably knew that he's not going to out obstacle VJ. I think it was pretty obvious.
I agree.
Slower. So his one swing was like, if I stay with VJ, I'm only going to end up behind him when it's all said and done due to obstacle and transition. a transition. So if I'm going to win, this is probably the one way I can dissect it. That's the only thing I can really think of.
I agree. And so he was a minute 2 behind VJ at the end. You take away that penalty loop and he's like 10, 15 seconds behind. Now he knows, based on his current fitness, I'm 10 to 15 seconds behind VJ next time that I race him. I'm close. I can make some adjustments, but he's got confidence, just like Bracken described it. Like, it's better to know where you are before the move is made, just instead of just only being able to react to like, well, I guess I'm 15 seconds slower than VJ, as opposed to I can actually hang with them if I want to and improve a couple of things.
Guys, I have a dead bird outside my window.
Just now?
Did you hear a big thud? Just
No.
maybe 30 seconds ago. Frickin' Robin just flew right into my window, scared the shit out of me, and now it's just laying on the ground out there.
That
Rest
can't
in peace,
be
Robin.
That can't be good luck, right?
Well, and the confusing thing is I have my shades down, so like he wouldn't be looking in the window like I'm just gonna fly into this house because my shades are drawn. So I don't know what he was thinking.
If it wasn't that window, it would have been a tree. That one wasn't very.
That one anyway.
Yeah.
I got distracted.
That one hashed wrong.
Continue.
Yeah. So in terms of the men's race, other surprises, like who was the most surprising in the opposite direction, would you say?
Fucking you.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't think that I was destined to get a top 3 pick from a lot of people. I'll just say it. I think a lot of people were surprised Tyler Rivalry finished in 6th.
Tyler and Sean were out of sorts from the gun. And they ran, I thought, probably the hardest races of any of the contenders, because the whole time they were trying to play catch up from the very first obstacle. It was and then the second round started and they picked up right where they left off. They looked rusty and like they had been training for ultras. It was just interesting.
Course on Palmerton where they're going up and let's say they allow the opportunity to go up and down most of the time. I think it's completely different. I think mountains just didn't come through here. And I mean, when has Veerman run well on a flat and fast course
Florida.
In recent history?
Yeah, it wasn't against you.
In series races, I'm talking the big races that matter.
It doesn't really seem to have him be completely out of the race when it's flat. I mean, when it's mountains, you can almost count on him being on the podium, but it's not like he drops considerably. But Bracken, you're right. You could see him literally like mentally engage and be like, I need to run faster than I am running right now. Where Beatrice and Alvaro could just run that fast. Veerman had to try to run that fast over and over.
Do you guys remember heading into, I think it was slip wall, Veerman just like went into a dead sprint at one point and he almost ran to the top of it. And that was just like you were talking about. He's like, I have to run fast here. And that was like one way that he shaved a little bit of time because he just wasn't staying with the leaders at that point. Like pure foot speed mattered. It was very shocking to see.
He did that after Bucket too.
You can look at him at the finish line and just visually see he has not been training for OCR. He is the most lean down, lack of muscle mass version of him we've seen. He's doing the ultra lifestyle right now. So I think Kirk, you're right. You put him on hills, maybe it comes through, but they were not in their element and they fought. I'll give them that. They fought.
Yeah.
Well, for Veerman too, I've raced like shoulder to shoulder with him a handful of times in recent years for majority of races. He's actually a really good obstacler. Like he's good at transitions. He's in and out. It wasn't his lack of ability to get in, out, and through the obstacles quickly. It had everything to do with the in between. I would assume if he was obstacling like he typically does, he's really good. So it wasn't that. Sean Stevens Wales probably a different story. I just think he probably just couldn't get up to speed.
Probably
ever on top of being a tick behind on the obstacles, but
he'll kick Tyler at one point.
Sean's not a slow runner, but I think this is just a different feeling.
Well, and this course is going to be the farthest to the end of one spectrum that we will see this year. It will be the flattest all the way through to Abu Dhabi. It will also have the least amount of grip obstacles. If you take a look at what they're doing, it really truly seems to be that Steve wasn't blowing smoke. They're going to use up until Worlds. They're going to use whatever's there in the festival area.
Yeah.
And historically in Florida, you don't see grip in the festival area because it's flat and it's accessible. They can take their cool obstacles and get it out on course. Think about Big Bear. Think about Palmerton. They have grip at the end there. There are rigs at the end. Palmerton oftentimes will have twister, ape hanger, a rig, Z-wall, Herc hoist, all in the last half mile. So I'm not saying we're going to hit all of them, but they have built-in places there where these other courses, you do see legit obstacles at the end. So we just got the most watered down, flat, fast, transitional course that we will see. And I don't think we'll see it again like that, because even Abu Dhabi, which could have that, they're going to build it up for the spectacle. So this was made for VJ, Alvaro, Manuel. Not that they can't do other places well, but this was entirely their wheelhouse and not anyone else's.
Good call on ape hanger for Palmerton. I wonder if it'll make it all the way up to there.
Would be sick.
That'd be nasty.
But to go
that
against
finish, bucket 2 they have there. Like they have steep, it will not be the same race.
I don't know if they'll make it all the way to ape hanger. And Twister sometime on the far end, but it's close enough that maybe.
Make it happen.
Probably not.
What jumps out at me is the time gaps still for a race like this. I don't know. Like, I'm going to still say depth of field sucks. Depth of field sucks ass. Sucks ass.
Hot takes.
The men too.
Let's move it. We'll move on to the hot take. Kirk, you're up.
Well, look at it. Like, I mean, it's one, a testament to VJ's performance, but two, in a 20-minute race, third place is over a minute behind. Fourth place, Mark Batras, a minute and a half. By fifth place, you're 2:13 behind VJ in fifth place in a 20-minute race. That is getting lapped on a track in a 5K, you guys. Like, it's either it's a testament to VJ's master of craft, or it's just like, ugh. Like, thank God for Manuel going out there and Alvaro sticking their nose in there and give us something to watch, because otherwise this is a damn blowout. And it was a joke as far as time gaps go. Not afraid to say that. That's a time gap we should see in an old super. We see that in beasts. We don't see it in 3Ks.
Oh, we've been waiting for the time for you and I to butt heads.
Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna today, Kirk.
Disagree.
Disagree. Please, the floor is yours.
If you took away the title of National Series event, this would be the most stacked race anyone had ever shown up to. If this were a stadium race, if this were, let's say this were a DECA, if this were a sprint super beast that wasn't on a championship series, you'd be like, I have to beat Nick Mask. Right. But I have to beat Nick Mask to take fifth place
in a flat course.
Yeah. Like where's the weak spot? The time gap is big, but are you going to outrun Veerman, Mask, Batras? Like, those are the next 3 people you had to beat to take not podium. So my point is that even on the track in championship events, when the kicking starts, when the move gets made, things splinter and people just drop way off. And so we had that here, but now it's a 5K that's spread out over 20 minutes, not 13:50 or 14 minutes. So I agree with what you're saying, that these are the time gaps we would expect in a blowout at a super distance. But we also know that the shorter the distance, the bigger you blow up. You're right in that line early. So I'm actually looking at it and saying, who shows up here and instantly says, I can beat all these top 6? I don't think there's any gimmies this year. I just think that we can't expect the time gaps yet to reflect the closeness of the race.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to that. Kirk, why you to answer this? Because I'm in Bracken's corner on this. Who shows up and suddenly asserts themselves and wouldn't fall in that 2 to 3 minutes behind the leader gap? Like Chris Brown, say he shows up super fast. You think he's going to be able to stay with these guys in a bunch of obstacles? No. Josiah, I don't think so. Lars, no. Atkins, yes. Hawk, probably not. Rylan, yes. You might have like 2
Kempson.
or 3 guys. Kempson, you're right. Who could get in the mix right here, but I still think a lot of the usual contenders would be in that 2 to 3 minutes behind the lead because of the obstacle density right here.
Yeah, I think we're arguing different ends of the same point, though. I'm not disagreeing with anything you guys are saying whatsoever. I agree with you. And we knew, like, a lot of obstacles, a lot of transitioning. the intensity and duration of this is going to lead to blowups, like for sure. But you can't look at the field and be like, there are 15 guys who could win this race, or like the battles within. There's these huge time gaps where guys mostly ran alone for the entire race, but it's still a 20-minute race. It's like the days of old where we got to go look at resumes and say, like, I don't know how 2nd through 12th is going to shake out. Now it's like, okay, we know who the top 6 are going to be. What order is it going to be in? I still think it's very, at least this first showing was very different from that standpoint. Dude, you guys, we were splitting hairs trying to figure out who to draft last week. It was like, I don't even know right now. Like, we had the worst draft we've ever had in history because we had no women show up. The dudes field was still pretty, I'm saying the worst, like,
I had the best draft in history.
I'm speaking as a whole. There was just, I don't know. It was watered down. I was hoping it wouldn't be as watered down. I'm standing by that. Like, it was watered down. We don't even have a score out to 15.
Well, my only caveat was that if you take away the title of National Series,
Yeah.
if you re-add that back in and change National to North American, now you look at it and go, so people didn't buy in.
People didn't buy in.
Yeah.
Tell me this. If you watch this race as an athlete, Bracken or Rich or myself, do you say,
Not me.
like,
Yeah. Oh wait,
well,
no,
you
it's
were in
there.
it.
Never
You were
mind.
there.
I get your point. Sorry. I was like, I'm
His
not getting
hackles
included.
are-
I see.
You're out.
Always
Jack,
out.
Are you saying I gotta get a piece of that action and get in the most competitive race in OCR? Or are you saying that race is low hanging fruit? If I want to go get mine, I should go join because it's ripe for the taking.
There's-
You think the second thing. You don't go say, let me get in the most competitive race I can find in the country. You go, ooh, there's a spot for me to slide in because it's available. I don't think we've been thinking that for years.
A perfect example of that, Kirk, is one Nick Riker texted me. It was like, oh, big time FOMO not being at this race. He's the cherry picker of all cherry pickers.
There you
Yeah.
have it. You'll see
So-
Jordan Buscemi there next.
He might
National
be out
Series
there.
race.
You know, I agree with you saying that look at that time gap. But then my next thought is, but who am I going to beat? Am I going to outrun
That's fair.
Botras and Alvaro? Am I
That's
gonna
exactly what I'm
out-obstacle
saying.
Leon, like
I'm
I
not
underst-
taking away from the guys who finished well. Those guys are amazing athletes. It's just we used to see double or triple that, and I want that.
You're right. It's it was such an entirely different animal, and no spectators, no music, no energy. It was a very different. It felt like a test event, which I think a lot of the actual monsters that are waiting in the wings, not that those guys aren't, but the people waiting, Kempson, I don't think that was his reasoning because no one knows why he does anything that he does.
Right.
But Rylan, Atkins, Lindsay, any of these people are all like, let's watch this test event and see what happens. We've never once had anyone say that about a championship series before. I'll sit out the first one. No, it's like, I need to show up because everyone's showing up.
Bauer, I'm sure maybe you didn't have time to do this, but when we've had these conversations, we say, you're often referring to like, oh, this is the deepest field in history, or this is the second deepest field in history for National Series races. Go ahead and do the math on this one and tell me where this lies.
We
That's
got a
all I'm
stat?
saying.
I can tell you
I don't
what
have
it
a
is.
number yet. It's
You're right. I know you don't.
It's
but-
the second least stacked ever, only to Montana back in 2015 or 16. That was
I don't
That
think
was
it's
the-
the second least stacked. There are some questions. You think some of those early tuxedo
No.
in Boston and
since the sport came into its own, since it became legit.
okay, you said ever. But
on the women's side, you could say least, probably.
I'll agree with the women's
Women's side least, men's side second.
Women barely
Second
didn't
least.
even have a field. That was like a literal non-field.
I still think due to the format, you had to beat some really good people and earn your way
100%.
there. Like
100%.
If you took Nicole Miracle out, that was any Midwestern regional race that we've seen in the last 3 years.
Yeah, Jack, what's historically the easiest? Is it like a Kentucky?
region?
Well, the Midwest, no offense,
Indiana.
but yeah, like Indiana.
No,
what's the easiest
it's been
race?
like Florida and Hawaii. And this is Florida, but this is
no,
not your average.
not international.
Indiana's had two races
international.
at least where if you showed up, you made a podium.
Bracken, you got 10th once at an Indiana. So
I think that proves my point. Like I cracked top 10 there.
yeah.
I don't mean to be a butthole. because I actually really enjoyed watching it. It was pretty exciting. It kept me engaged the entire time, where I tune out old traditional Spartan races at times. So like, I'm not saying it's a bad format from a viewer's perspective, but obviously if you're looking to draw in or create more of a energy around the sport right now, it's done the opposite as far as top end participation. That's all I'm saying. I enjoyed watching it. I would just watch it on the assault bike. I watched every 21 minutes, and I don't think I've ever watched every second of a Spartan race before ever, right? You tune in, tune out, fast forward. They're running up a mountain again. Who cares? I watched 21 straight minutes. That's a win, isn't it?
21.
But it's not bringing in who it should bring in.
But basically, you're just saying, where is everyone?
Correct. And a lot of people are having reasoning like I am, like it just doesn't trip their trigger, and other things are taking priority, and the unknown, like Bracken said, of the test event, and maybe that'll change next event.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to completely shit on it.
Yeah. All right. Question for you guys, since you weren't racing. After watching this, how do you think you would have done? And then, like, based on your current training, would you have been prepared the way that you thought the race would have required certain aspects of your fitness?
I'll go, since BK is
Bracken's chewing.
He's fistful of
I got my
snacks.
pre-workout snack going.
Of
Read it off
snacks.
this, I got a hammer.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have had the. I saw Ashley Heller had a post. She used a word that was jarring for the pace. I don't think it would have felt that jarringness. I would have had a hard time on the obstacles. I would have been kind of like how Nick Mask was. You could see him have a hard time kind of getting through the rigs. I'd have been slow on Z-Wall, but the actual output, I think I could have been okay. I could have run with Alvaro and Patras.
Mm-hmm.
I would have lost seconds on absolutely everything, for sure. It would have been 2 seconds at a time and death by 1,000 cuts, and I would have been a minute and a half back for sure, or more.
Yeah.
Probably because of that, because I haven't been training it, but yeah, for sure. I would have been part of the problem. I would have been way back there too. I'm not pot meat kettle, but for sure.
Yeah. So Kirk, just to add on to that, you obviously went into depth about your race versus Glenn when you went to SoCal, and you're like, I was just rusty. It proved I haven't been on obstacles for a while, and fitness just, only takes you so far. I should have learned from you. I hadn't touched an obstacle since end of last year, besides at the Gov Games. We went to
obstacle gyms.
Okay, that was
we were out
so
there.
We were like practicing walking together and stuff. But bottom line, I was minimally prepared obstacally, and I figured that my improved fitness would help me. Didn't. Still an obstacle race, end of the day. And I think a lot of people, you mentioned Nick Mask, like, oh crap, fitness is there, but the obstacles aren't. Next time, people are gonna actually work on transitions and take the obstacle seriously, because that was the whole difference maker. And it was actually kind of refreshing to see that obstacles mattered, to be honest. Even if they weren't super hard, I would have liked to have seen different ones, to be honest, just to make it a little bit more complex. But it was an obstacle race, and I think that showed.
What was the longest time between obstacles in the entire course? Like, did you even run for a minute at any point without having to do something?
No, 30 seconds to the first wall, 25 seconds to the bucket carry, do the bucket carry, 80 meters maybe until inverted wall, Z wall 20 meters after that, go in the water right after. They're never more than like 80 meters, I'd say. Most of the time less.
Doesn't that just scream Bracken Crocker to you folks?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Bracken, I was literally
scream Bracken Crocker to you folks.
Do.
In my mind, I was thinking, do you remember 2015 Cowboys Stadium? You like whooped everybody during that race.
Hell yeah, he remembers. Are you serious?
Yeah, that was my
I watch
first.
it every night.
He probably does. That was my first time doing. I think that was my second race. The first one that I did, no one good was there, but that was the first time I'm like, oh, I've seen this guy Bracken before. And there were a few points during the race. I remember you used to wear like receiver gloves and stuff, and you like, I was in heat 6 or something, but I'd see you while I was waiting to go off, and you just moved differently. And I was like, man, if someone could move,
bro.
If someone could move like that, they would have done really well in this race. So if you can get back into your 2015 movability, it's going to be
Bracken
good
moves like an
regardless.
animal, like a creature. Bracken moves like a creature.
Yeah, I watched this and thought I would have done very well in the prelims because I haven't lost the movement piece.
Yeah.
The engine's what I've lost. So the 1,000 meters, I would have got through those just fine. I think on cruise control, I would have been.
What you say? But
And I think so, honestly.
okay.
Under
I've done
7
enough-
minutes, right at that 7 minute.
Yeah, I've done enough
Big
little
cluster.
test workouts around here to know that I can fake things in non-compromised running right now. I can fake it about 4 or 5 minutes. Like if I just had to run a time trial, I can run 4 or 5 minutes well and I start to crumble. But I can make it like 16 minutes right now at whatever OCR pace I want to run for like a 20 to 30 minute race. I can't make it the whole time. So I think the first rounds I would have done well. I wouldn't have been first, but I wouldn't have wanted to be. But that final, I would have slow played it. I don't have the fitness. So I think that I wouldn't have run a race to try to podium. I would have run a race to try to steal something the last lap. So assuming I make it through the rig each time, I think obstacling and transitions, I would have taken 5th place. Assuming rig goes fine and my fitness can make it 23 minutes. But I wouldn't have been able to race the final right now. I know that.
Jack, how blown out was the grip? I guess you didn't. Never
No.
mind, you didn't. It would be one. I was going to
No,
say
that-
just talk
so
about-
sorry. In one lap, it didn't go anywhere, huh? The grip was
No,
fine?
no one's grip was blown out.
Okay.
You add in a Herc twister, monkey bars, a couple of other things like that. Suddenly it matters. One other thing that I just wanted to add on the atrophy and like the big time gaps that I forgot to mention earlier, it was like 90 degrees. So Kirk, I think that explains a little bit of the time gaps, especially in round 3. Like everyone's pretty close, clustered together. Lap 1 of the 1,000 in the finals, and then lap 2, you can see people start fading a little bit, and then you just overheat, and it's game over at that point. So that definitely affected people.
And that probably might have pushed me back even further, but I would have had the exact opposite problem of Kirk and Rich. I cannot run with any of those top 4 guys right now, but I can probably obstacle better than 3 of them. So I would have been trying to obstacle back into it. And yeah, maybe I would have done worse in the final, but it's just running. I can't run with those guys right now.
It's a good format
More
for
obstacles in the final.
Yeah.
When I'm doing OCR work right now and trying to peg it, I'm getting down to like 525. And when I'm trying to run compromised threshold, I'm running like 555. Neither of those paces are enough to run with those guys. They started 5 minutes and atrophied to 520. I would have started 525 and atrophied to 550. That's not it right now.
That's almost exactly what I did. I started at 520, 525, and then ended up 545 or so. Like I thought I was moving. I like even in the opening round, I'm like, I'm not moving poorly, but I'm second to last place in my heat. I am screwed. And then I just happen to have a really fast heat. So I was doing enough to make the next round there. But you're right, like top end speed, their atrophy, they can get away with it because they're just so much faster, pure foot speed there.
And these two can run 5 flat all day if they want to.
Exactly.
So
What pace was being run by like VJ, Manuel, and Alvaro, would you say, when they finally got to stride, like the bulk of it? If you had a ballpark what it took in
the final.
In
the final, 515 to 525. It was a lot. VJ was probably not running as fast. Like he wasn't running slowly, but he just made up 2 seconds everywhere. And he just gets back to speed. He has no like peaks and valleys, like getting on and off obstacles. His first stride is at the stride that he'll continue at. Manuel was very close to that, but VJ just like never dipped. There was never coming to a full stop before a wall or anything. And then having to get your speed up again. Like it was just, that's where he made up so much ground. And he was better than anybody in the business at it.
So my take here watching this, and this is something we had criticisms of before even seeing this race like be executed. I don't think this 3K fits with the 1Ks. I kind of enjoyed the 1K loops a little bit more. I thought it was more exciting, and then the 3K came out, and then it was boring. It was a completely different race. So I think like a 2K final is enough, or just keep it 1K. Like let's just do one loop. What's the problem here?
What Tyler said. Yeah.
I just said.
If there's no prelims, I love the idea of a 3K.
Yeah.
But watching, the excitement was gone out of it by the time the third lap came around. VJ made it exciting through lap 2, but I don't know. the more I thought, if you're going to go short and exciting, you might as well go short and exciting so that there can't be time gaps. You might as well have 4 people entering the barbed wire and rig and sprinting. If we go 3K, we might as well go 5K. It was weird to watch and think that, because I thought 3K will be short enough, but maybe the takeaway is, can we finally put to bed the idea that some CrossFitter is going to come in and do well at this? Like, I think it was provable. Just Fiend, it's over. You cannot come into this if you're not a runner with athleticism.
Yeah. Right. So the format for me didn't work, and the 3K for the women's was the most boring thing I think I've ever seen. I think I would have rather watched like a beast for 3 hours with terrible coverage than
they did
than
it
3K.
They did it to themselves. Spartan did, with having like single digit recovery time. I mean, that was like a workout. It was like equal work to rest ratio, it felt like.
Everyone just, as soon as you're done, just went underneath the tent and just kind of tried to lower your body temperature. And then 5 minutes before call-ups, everyone shuffled around a little bit and then just got on the start line and went.
And that's one thing where we're talking about, oh, it's a 3K, these time gaps, but really, is it a 5K? Because of those short gaps and the total mass of volume that you get throughout the day. Like, should we really kind of look at this more like a 5K obstacle race than a 3K final?
Let's see the total work.
By 3K, it's a long workout.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to say, I'm just curious on the total work. Like, VJ's roughly 7 + 7 + 21. So about a 35-minute race total. A lot of the other guys were high 30s. Nicole right around 40. If you add up all of her splits, like, that's the total duration of racing throughout the day. So,
and it doesn't work 1-to-1 that way, but it's
I know
close
because of the intensities.
Is that it turns the 21 minutes of racing into 21 minutes of effort, rather than 5 minutes of get out and feel good and then start to hurt. You start stride 1, you're already in it. And that changes a 21-minute race to, like, I think double. You need double the engine to do well at it. I think you need half and double. You need half of that to be able to get through, and you need the speed of half the distance and the endurance of double the distance. And again, that writes off any outsiders right now.
Half and double, that's a program you could sell.
Ava half and double.
Yeah, I think you could really get people's gears turning for that.
There you go.
What I wrestle with the most with this is, if you're going to make a short course format, which is supposed to be more watchable, where were the people watching? Like, you know, when COVID hit and you watched your first NFL game and the stadium was empty and it felt weird and anticlimactic, you're like, there's no, like, this, what am I watching? A practice? Like, until you got used to it. It's like, that's how it felt when I tuned in. It was like, I had an athlete there who went Friday to watch the race, who was going to race Saturday and Sunday. He said there were like 20 people there and the festival area was closed. And you think about drawing eyes and validating a sport that you want to get into the Olympics. And I watched it, and there's nobody. It was a ghost town. I felt bad for the people out there working hard. Not that you need an audience, but I felt no energy at all. And it didn't draw me in from the outside. And I'll have that same conversation over and over. Like, if I'm a new athlete, or I'm going to try to build momentum in the sport and get real talent from across the globe in it, if I watched this, it certainly wouldn't bring me in. It was just bizarre. If it didn't feel like a championship race, and that's they used to. And even though you go out in the mountains and come back, like, we had a festival area full of people, and there are at least like 4 people clapping for you at the finish line. Now there was none except the photographers. I mean, what gets less viewership? Jousting in the Olympics, maybe? That probably gets more. It's fencing. It's just a little
jousting.
Fencing. Jousting would get more for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know what to do with that piece. Like, the setup is poor there. Like, at least take advantage of the people that are coming to race on Saturday somehow. Get something going. It was weird.
Friday at 4 p.m. is really tough, because if you're gonna get the Friday people, at least do it after work hours. People aren't off work at 4 o'clock, and they're definitely not able to make the venue at that time. You could do it under the lights if you wanted a Friday night. That would actually be kind of cool. Started at like 6:30. This holding took an hour and a half or so. And then, it's going to stay light until 8 p.m. throughout this series, 8:30 p.m. throughout basically the rest of the summer. Do it then. You might get some more people show up.
They don't care about having people like attend the event. They
They
don't care.
should.
They don't care about the event really at all. They're just like putting it in this festival area. I'm looking at OCR report and trying to see like what kind of views it got, because it was seemed to be more for the people watching remote. Right now it's at 4.5K, which seems in line with kind of what, like right now OCR World Championships 3K has 7K, but that was kind of split between, because ORM had something there too. It's 7 months ago, so there's that many more views. So like, I'm not sure if the viewership is going to be better for this or not. And this is for the first one. You would think there would be a lot of curiosity for this first one.
Who am I to speak on this? Jack, you're the only one who can speak on it. I know you're an athlete there, so it was very different, but what was the energy? What was the energy like?
It didn't feel like like a world championship level event. People were like, oh, you're here. Crap. Now I know I need to go a little bit harder. It was a very competitive environment with the athletes, but I don't think that it had necessarily the seriousness of a major event, because it didn't have like the spectacle that you'd typically have at a bigger event. But the athletes, it was more like, sweet, we got a battle. There are more good names than typically I'd find at a regular race, and I think that helped. But I don't think it had the energy, especially because of the spectators and stuff, that you'd see at another U.S. National Series level event.
It highlighted to me that if you're going to build the entire platform on visibility, palatability to the masses, and bringing in people with short attention span and excitement, you are almost mandated to choose your venue for the series based off ability to cover the race. I don't think you can choose a brand new venue and say we're going to have it there without even knowing if you're going to be able to cover the event.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not going to pay for the big budget broadcast, and if they're not going to tape delay, then the only way it gets put out is by cell coverage. And you can't choose locations that don't have cell coverage. It just doesn't make sense. If your entire platform is visibility, you have to put out a product that, like Kirk says, makes people either want to do it or want to watch. And we've lost the awe factor of, I need to try that. So now it has to be, this is awesome to watch. But people couldn't really see a whole lot of it. And they handicapped themselves by putting out waves 2 and 3 when wave 1 was still going on and not telling anyone. And
that was tough.
We had no clue that people were going to be on course. And not to get into too much of that, but if it's going to be cell coverage, then it doesn't need to be associated with an event that has no cell service. I don't understand.
I was very surprised that you didn't have cell service, because like a couple minutes away, you have 3 lanes of a highway in each direction. Like, you were not in the middle of nowhere. You're in Palm Beach, and there are hundreds of thousands of people who live there. You'd think you'd have fine cell reception. You get in this park and it just disappeared. I don't get it.
And that's like, they scout these areas. They have to go down and talk to the tourism board. That's what brings people in Florida, is the tourism board. And so when you're having those discussions, if you're putting on a cell phone based competition, you have to take your cell phones to the venue and see, okay, we can't host one. We're going to host an event here, but 3K is non-eligible for this location.
You know what the scary question that pops into my mind about it is, where is the ROI for Spartan? Like, where is the ROI on even doing any of this?
Olympics, bro.
The Olympics.
What? Right, but they're going to be bankrupt before that happens. So it's like, where's the ROI on this? Like, what I'm saying, it's scary, is like, there ain't no ROI on this. Next thing, we're going to be looking at competitive fields of Tough Mudder. Just where I see it going, because there's no ROI on this.
Well, what do you send to investors?
How do you have somebody invest or sell partnerships or anything because of this event? You don't. So it goes away.
You would say, take a look at this coverage, and now imagine you can see it.
Like pit stains, bragging.
Man, I'm going hard in the paint.
Dude, those gummy bears gets him all fired up.
How does a company keep an event around that has no ROI? I just don't know where it happens.
And I think this is something that they haven't had ROI on the elite side of this field for
But at
years.
least they slutted out
They have, though.
at least they slutted
Have
out
they?
the top names in the sport and used them in advertising and made sweet videos and really glorified the Spartan brand. And now they're not really doing anything with it. It's like
Part of the reason they can still sign sponsors is because there's a competitive version. That's still one of the biggest ways they can sign sponsors. It's not the way it used to be when they had NBC. It's not the way it used to be when they had ESPN. It's not the way they used to be when they had and they put into a pro team. They can't sell the pro team to sponsors anymore, but they still had that until this year. And now you're right. This isn't an event you can currently sell to sponsors because no one could see the sponsor. And you can't see the sponsor because they chose a spot where you can't have coverage. And in the past, I get really upset when I look at the comments. People are like, if you can't put out a good content, then just tape delay it. It's like, well, tape delay in 1 day is dumb. You might as well tape delay 2 days. But with this format, I'm like, yeah, tape delay 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just record it and then boom. It actually makes sense now. We have to be able to see it. If there's action, there's no sense filling dead air in a 3K.
Right. I watched it on mute, like I was doing something else and I should have been paying attention to. Yeah, I shouldn't have been like necessarily watching where I was.
He really doesn't like listening to Bracken and
I was and adding a Magita to that mix. Goodness, I'm out. So you know what's one thing that I think could be sellable for this season is the Kempson VJ rivalry that seems to be emerging.
Is this a hot take topic coming up?
A hot take topic. It's what the sport needs. I think it's the only thing that could really draw eyeballs and create storylines this season is Kempson versus VJ going down.
They have to face each other though.
Yeah. Should we read off his post?
Go for it.
Yeah, I haven't stitched it all together. Do you have it in something succinct? Who's post? All right, Bracken, fill us in. What's going on? He's looking for
or not.
Look forward to other athletes. This is just the final. Okay, I'll read the whole thing.
Who's this?
This is Kempson. This is the last post before this race.
Okay.
Silver at Savage Pro Series Gainesville to Sean Roberts, who put on a speed clinic today. Stoked to slug it out with a great guy for the rest of the series. Look forward to other athletes showing up and throwing down, but please show up ready to ball without excuses.
Damn.
That line did not need to be there because that has been our sport for a decade.
Impossible to not show up without excuses. Come on.
That's the OCR way, but he put it in there only for one, maybe two people. VJ.
Mm-hmm.
And then he didn't show up to face VJ, which was a bummer because I wanted to see that. But yeah, we're starting to have a rivalry because VJ has an ego, even though he's the nicest guy on the planet. And Kempson likes being prickly. I love it.
Can't help but to be. He's from New England, man.
Yep.
So, yes. And I think that the excuse VJ has was basically like, oh, I wasn't ready for this race. And
I'm not as fit as you guys. I got spanked.
Kind of the reality, right?
I thought he gave an explanation.
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily an excuse. I
tried running like I was fitter and I blew up.
Right.
It's not like, well, I just started running 3 weeks ago and I've been dealing with like VJ's made the sickness excuse. He's made the out of shape excuse. He's made all that. This was just, I raced and I blew up.
It's early in the season, not there.
Valid.
But then he clapped back at him.
I missed that part.
He kind of said the same thing. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just hoping that he probably wasn't completely prepared to be here or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it. I think this is what we need. And they'll just like dance around each other. And I don't know when we'll see him again.
I want to pose this to the panel. Of any of the top 5 people in the history of OCR, has anyone made less whiny excuses than VJ? I actually think that he is always good about coming out and saying, here's the deal. I've been sick all week. I'm still going to try this race. I am not fit and I blew up. You don't get the Killian excuses or the Akin excuses when things don't go their way. You're not getting that with him. He's always just kind of straightforward. He doesn't spin it. He just says, here's what it is. And Killian and Atkins, for as great of champions as they've been for the sport, they're known to put out 3 paragraphs of excuses after a race.
I would have done better if the race was exactly what would suited my strengths, but it wasn't. And that's
So I don't even know. And I don't even know if it's valid to criticize VJ for it, but I love the fact that it doesn't matter. We've got this going on now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think VJ in the past as well, he's like, I'm not ready for a mountain beast. I'm not going to race them. That's not an excuse. That's an explanation, like you said.
Well, let's just real quick then talk about the other side of the coin, and then we probably spent too much time on this already. But there's just so much to say.
We have
It's
59
the
minutes.
first time it's
VJ?
ever happened.
Kirk?
Is there?
Do you see
59
VJ as an excuse maker?
No, not at all. In fact, he had plenty of opportunities to make excuses last year for some serious health conditions, and you barely heard crickets from him.
Yeah, kind of waited till the
So-
end to be like,
Right. So, like, I got respect for him. But what is there any saving the women's field right now? Is what I want to know. Is there any saving the draw? We talk about Kempson and VJ maybe making it exciting. Is it like, what is it over? Is there any possibility of this? Is a Chris Roglaski in the mix going to make a difference? Is there any way to salvage the draw of the women's race in the 3K, or is it rest in peace, women's Spartan Elite?
Do you want to know? So I talked with Rose. She'll be in Big Bear. Ariel is
Okay.
planning on being in Big Bear. Chris will be in Big Bear. Like, so you're going to see more higher caliber athletes, but you're not going to see Lindsay. She already announced her schedule. I can't see Emma making her way down there. And we've wanted for the past 2 years since Nicole got injured, we just want to see Lindsay, Emma, and Nicole on the same course. Nicole's back. She looks as good as ever. Now we're not going to see it.
does
Such
she
a
look as
bummer.
good as ever? I mean, she ran in a JV race. No offense, but kind
If
of
you saw
offense.
her effort that she was putting out, Nicole's back.
There's one way to save this sport for the visuals of the sport. Nicole has to stop showing up for this series because there is depth to the women's sport. There legitimately is, but they're all going to be so far behind her that the battle is going to be 2nd or 3rd through 10th. So if you just eliminate Nicole, suddenly you have a really compelling battle. Can you imagine Rose and Chris and Rhea running it back from Utah? That'd be fantastic.
That was such a good second place battle.
But Nicole's going to go and screw everything up. So if we just get rid of her, the
Pay
sport's
her off.
saved.
We won't know
because-
how terrible the sport is if she's in there
No.
killing everybody.
Because they're not terrible. They're all really, really good. And she's exceptional. So you have to get rid of exceptional, and suddenly there's parity. Because on the men's side, you can beat VJ if you outrun him, but you're not going to out-obstacle him. And you can beat Alvaro or Batras or someone else fast by out-obstacling them, but you're not going to outrun them. You can't do either to Nicole. You have to hope for a catastrophic injury, and you don't want that. So just don't show up anymore, Nicole, and the sport's saved.
Bracken,
The sport's on your shoulders, Nicole, not in the way you thought.
We'll have
Yeah.
6 people at the start line instead of
Be the
7.
hero we deserve.
I do have a solution. You focus the cameras more on the 2 through 4 battle and just have Nicole as the inset at that point, so you can actually see some battle. But then
Nah,
it's a
I don't like
disservice
it.
to her.
Because you know it's JV. So here's what you do. Nicole, you don't have to leave, but run the men's race. And then we will double or triple whatever you should have won. Like for every person you beat, you should get a bonus. Just run the
Who's?
men's race.
The race brain will?
We meaning the Spartan.
You gotta get on the phones, Bracken, and start picking up sponsors if that's what's the deal
Easy.
is. That's not even
Lightweight.
that's not hard.
So just let her run men's field. There, we're saved.
Done.
Well, Jack, it is encouraging that others, top tier women, will be showing up in the future that didn't show up this weekend. That's positive. Maybe we'll have a bigger field than a smaller one. That's
But
good
we
to hear.
want to see Lindsay and Emma there
Yep.
against Nicole, and I don't think it's going to happen. Oh, Ida as well. So that'll she actually might make things interesting.
They're all so good against each other.
Ida,
She's so good.
You could give her a
Ida's
run.
Ida's a step above Rose and that group.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah,
But just let me have this kick Nicole out of the sport thing.
If you want to,
it's a good
I'll let
take.
you make the call.
I'm for
She's
it.
back. We get it. You're still great. Get out of here.
Yeah.
You see how Bracken only picks fights with like small framed women? It's
Hey,
like
not dumb.
which physical battle is
Dude,
at the best chance of winning, and then
that's how
just
you stay
talk smack to
undefeated.
that person.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Come on.
I think I had a bit of a take on this. This can be a bit of a segue as well. I think women's hybrid racing is just going to consume OCR completely. I think that the athletes are just superior there. I think the accessibility is better. I think it's a little bit more empowering. The style of training, it seems like it's like aspirational. OCR is just kind of silly, and like it doesn't seem to. And on the women's side, in particular, for hybrid, they seem to be really drawn toward it. And I think that the athletes who are going to come in and if they have a fork in the road, they're going to go hybrid from now on.
The future of anything is the youth. So when is the last time a hot prospect, a hot new up and comer for the females stayed into the sport until right now today? However, the men, each new prospect keeps doing it. Lars came back. Ryland's still here. Hawk came back. Every new prospect, Rebecca Hammond, who else could we throw into this? We could have Leon Wastany. You could have
even Faye to an extent.
Emma Cook Clark, Faye. They just keep leaving because what's the point?
Right.
In their eyes, they'll do other things, but you're right. They're drawn to hybrid and they go in on it.
Like if you take the Go Ruck field and put all the female athletes from Go Ruck, even most of them are hybrid, and you put them in the 3K at West Palm Beach, we would have probably drafted those athletes well above the podium finishers of like a Julie Best or a Sarah Rich who did well. But if they showed up, and they probably would have bumped a lot of athletes down just with like the 8 or 10 women or whatever that showed up at Go Ruck. That field from an OCR standpoint was probably more competitive than the OCR field.
100%.
So I think
do you see anything like that? Do you see anything like that happening with the men's field as well? I think hybrids cannibalized a good sector of the men's OCR field already. You, Kent, we could see Ryland going pretty much all in on that. Some other guys, right? Jack,
Magida,
for example. Magida, like it's definitely cannibalized a good
Cole
bit.
Schwartz,
Hunter.
yeah.
Okay, the list goes on and on. Kempson.
Cole's not a hybrid athlete. He's just like a goofy contest athlete now.
Okay. He's a Nick Simmons competitor.
But
he's a hybrid influencer.
He's doing his best.
If it came down to it, and there continues to be no real OCR draw, I mean, Savage is doing a really nice job, I think, giving the top tier athletes an OCR race to chase in a series that I think people still can relate to. But you know, if it's not an option, it leaves people like me, and I think a lot of others going, okay, I'm just going to trail run or road run, or I'm going hybrid. It's going to make you make that decision. And if there's no ROI on Spartan's end, then if that disappears, it's hybrid all the way. It's going to cannibalize both the men's and women's field. It has to extend to the men too. It already is starting.
It could potentially, it has cannibalized it for sure, but I kind of think it's more just going to hurt. It's going to like more dissolve it, and people might go your route or like a Tyler Veerman route and just be like, let's go into the trails, not necessarily come specifically into Hyrox or Deca. It's just that the OCR part's going to be less exciting because the depth has taken a hit, and it might just be less competitive and less fun for some athletes.
And a lot of the athletes who went the hybrid route were already on the larger side to begin with, so they had a strength background. So this kind of fits their natural training style a little bit better than trying to, be as light as possible so that you can run up a mountain a little better.
Big boys, out here eating
calories.
I think my hot take is that this series won't be around next year.
That's warm.
I think that it goes right back to how it was, or it's gone entirely. But a way too early take is that we'll never see it. There will be one, if we make it to Abu Dhabi, which they might contractually have to, there will be one Spartan 3K champion in the history of time, and it won't be ever again. I think that the only way to bring a lot of these people back, if I don't think they care about it, is to bring back trail racing, mountain racing, off-road racing. We can't get gritty in this format. You can't get far enough away from the venue.
That would be that in race brain in 5 or 6 years, be like, remember how weird that shit was? I had that 3K. Weird.
I second
that 1 take for sure.
Warm take.
Bracken, let me just add on to that. You said you can't get gritty and far enough away from the venue. I was honestly astonished with the variety of terrain that they were able to put in a Florida-based flat 1,000 meter loop. they did a good job, like a little bit of everything. And I think that they'll be able to do the same once you get to a mountain course. Like Steve, he said that he thinks, I think it was in our interview, he wouldn't be surprised if they could get 250, 300 feet of elevation change in a single 1,000-meter loop. So it's really within 500 because you got to come back down afterwards. That's some climbing. And you can get to some nasty sections. You guys know how Palmerton's set up. You've got a chance of doing it. We need to see it though. And I agree with that part.
I don't think I'm criticizing their execution of the race. I think their logistics suck right now. But the race they did a very good job of. I think the proof of concept proved that there wasn't as much interest as they probably hoped there would be.
Yeah,
it didn't set the world on fire when they did a pretty good job executing it. And it was just like, oh yeah, this is what it would be. Okay, maybe this isn't something to build a series around, which is again why they shouldn't have made it a full series before testing it. So
we were already transitioning to hybrid. Like after the first Hyrox in the US in Miami, after the first DECA in the US, and now the first 3K, what were your impressions after the first occurrence of each of those, and how do they compare?
Like the Kmart version of DECA?
No, not the Kmart version.
Well, the first Hyrox, BK, you were there, right?
Yeah,
I was as well. Yeah,
were you?
Yeah,
I don't remember seeing.
I remember you and Kent were like sitting in a corner, all bummed out because you didn't do as well as you thought you did.
Was that before or after you were talking to Fraser?
Miami.
When Fraser was like, dude, fucking nice, man.
He's got to know who I am. Right, Bracken.
You crushed today.
He walked up to me and he just in front of me took me out of his phone.
Did you just tell me? What? You
Race.
still were like, whatever, bro, you're still 5'6". We're good.
Yeah.
I stepped over him and walked
over that little guy.
Yeah. It was exciting. It was a splash. Hyrox was. DECA, I think a lot of people shared the same sentiment, which was, did Spartan just put on a worse, shorter version of Hyrox? But it grew into something because athletes bought in. By the time it got to World Championships, even that series, I was in Chicago, it was dead there. Mm-hmm. But the high-end athletes were there enough that people bought into it, and it's becoming a thing. And everyone bought into Hyrox right away. It became a thing because people bought into it. And they tied it to gyms better than Spartan ever could with SGX. There's a lot of SGX certs out there just collecting dust. So it's tied into what the humanity wants out of fitness right now.
That's always going to be an issue with OCRs. Like the methodology of training is hard to bottle and it's hard to consume and spread to masses, where DECA or Hyrox or CrossFit, it's what they've done so well. It's like, this is what you can expect from this style of training. Here are the results that you can expect. Like,
it's repeatable.
For OCR, it's like, yeah, get some calluses on your hands, maybe a couple more veins in your forearms. But like, we don't really know how to do this in a gym setting.
They sent us the Spartan SGX level 1 and level 2 program basically and said, you can have it for free, just promote it. And I got through part of it in the weekend and realized, no, this is a great way to sell things to a gym, but it will not translate at all. It was all what you'd expect out of some trainer at Spartan putting together how to train for Spartan Race. You could train and have fun doing it, and then you come out on course and you would just blow chunks because it'd be terrible. But you're right, with Hyrox, if you train the way they tell you to train, you're going to do pretty well.
You'll get better for sure.
Yeah. Well, Jack, you posed the question and you're the only one here who can actually answer it. So you tell us, Jack, what's the difference between the inaugural events of all three?
Yeah, you were at the Kmart version.
I was at the first DECA in.
So why are you asking us?
Also, no, I was just curious from a viewing perspective. I'll answer it.
That's a BK move. Asking a question, teeing yourself up. Fucking knock this thing out of the park now, dude.
Yeah, let's go, Jack.
He's mentoring me. I would say the spectacle of Hyrox had a big lead in, but they also had like this big cash prize out there. Everyone's like, oh, I did sub 60 during my simulation. We're gonna be so rich. Everyone
sub 57.
Weren't they were giving prize money for breaking the record, right?
Yeah,
at that
5
time.
and 5.
$5,000, yeah. And you had a lot of buy-in from people who just wanted to show up and be there first time. And it's a spectacle itself. Like the big all the inflatables that they've got there, just the arena's big. DECA obviously is the scaled back version of it, but I feel like people kind of knew that heading into it, that they weren't going to like just make this crazy spectacle, but it also had the elite buy-in, and that's what's led it to continue having success over the past couple of years. I do feel like if you look at the first Hyrox and you look at the first Deca, you probably have about the same amount of established high-end racers who showed up total participation wise. If we're just being honest, the spectacle wasn't as good. You didn't have the arena. You don't have that in OCR necessarily, but it's going to be hard to replicate that on a Friday afternoon. So that's going to be something they're going to struggle with no matter what. Just the time of day for production with that being on a Friday afternoon. But I do think that despite it not having every single big name there, you did have some athlete buy-in who were willing to try it. And I bet some people who did watch it are probably like, you know what, I kind of want to just give this a shot, especially if, you know, your hypothesis that it might not be around next year, which I don't have any inside info on that at this point. But if you're right, Bracken, it's like you've got 2 more races to try this. You might as well give it a shot. And it's just fun. Like I thought it was pretty fun. If they switched up a couple obstacles, it would have been better. But I do think you had the same relative initial buy-in from the athletes.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Okay.
Answer your question, Kirk.
That's a good PC answer.
We couldn't feel the festival the way you could. But is it fixable by simply moving it from Friday afternoon to Saturday afternoon?
I think I don't know about the afternoon, what I would do is literally like 7:30 to 9 o'clock. No one else is racing. You have one qualifying round, maybe like a 1 mile buy-in and then a 1 mile final. You're just half the field makes it to the final. You saw enough separation in a 1K that, you know, the number of obstacles and stuff throughout the course is not going to be a problem. You're going to have enough walls. You're going to have enough lasers and everything. It's not going to be an issue based on how they set up the course. But yeah, I would just do it first thing. You get people already arriving to the venue who are going to race later in the day, and maybe they'll be like, I'll show up early. I'll cheer them on. I'll watch this intensity. That's the way to do it instead of a Friday afternoon. Easier on work schedules as well.
But it's always nice to have the idea of an afternoon is because everyone's already there. You don't have to count on people showing up before the race and they don't really care about watching the elites. If they're already there, they'll watch.
Yeah, shut it down. Trust me, you're talking to the guy who would avoid 7:30 starts like my life depended on. I would get rid of those in a heartbeat and do afternoons. But
you need an evening, like at past dusk.
Yeah.
And it's perfect for you. You can sleep all the way in. Don't have to worry about the sun. Yeah, dude.
I understand it's like a test event, and then I'm done griping, I promise. But like, I understand it's a test event, and they're feeling this out, right? And the Spartans giving us an opportunity at something. Like, we have to just acknowledge the fact that they're doing something, which I like very much appreciate. On the same token, if you're going to be like, Olympic Committee, look at this thing that we want to make a thing. What are they going to show them? They're not going to show screaming fans and crowds and buy-in from like the masses, because they're going to show them the OCR report coverage. They're going to show, what are they going to show them? Like, how does it translate? Does it need to be a spectacle? I don't know. I guess like fencing isn't a spectacle, but it's in the Olympics, right? Not jousting, but like, what do they show? What are you going to show them? That's what I want to know. Like,
well, they did have an event in Jacksonville earlier. They had a 3K test trial in Mexico earlier. And they're going to have some in Europe later this year. So you will have some stuff, but I agree. It's a pretty small sample size at this point to show off. What I think, just going back to our team discussion that we've had in the past, where it's like, you're on team craft, you're on team whatever. Like I know a bunch of athletes actually there. They're like, oh crap, I'm letting Bracken and Kirk down because I'm not doing as well this race. Like I was like, I'm gonna have to hear it from Kirk because I'm not performing. Like I was trying to sell out and stuff and then fell off the rig. Like just a couple, like that team-based thing might make it a little bit more compelling, especially you put a specific jersey color on people. That's one way that I would, improve it. That might make it a little more palatable.
Mm-hmm. I had an athlete of mine reach out. I don't know if I should air this or not. Maybe he reached out to you guys too. I won't say his name, but he suggested, or her name. Its name. I won't say its name, but, suggested like, okay, if the sport isn't going to save itself, who will? And they're like, well, Race Brain could. You could put together, I don't know the legality of it, but like we could put together the prize money for the series or something. We could actually make it a thing where it's a second or third party payout and we could create momentum in already planned events, there's probably some legality to that. However, I was like, it's not the worst idea I've ever heard, because if we got on the back of something like this, I think we could help propel it forward with our platform.
Overestimating how easy it is to get prize money.
No, I'm not.
I
I'm
don't
not
think it's
saying
that
I've
easy.
thought through the logistics of it.
Yes. What? What? Kirk, you missed that episode. We basically already saved the sport.
Yeah, we made a series.
We did that.
Where was I? Was I in Vietnam?
Yeah.
I think
Hanoi.
the UK, I think Europe is going to surpass. I think they're
We
going to
don't
execute
make
it better.
a series. We take a race that's already taking place.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
and then
custom
help support
series.
them. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did
We're
that.
like, hey, Savage, this race.
We're already
Spartan, this
doing it.
race,
20,
we're-
23,
OCR
24.
Worlds. Yeah. We already had
Anyway.
that.
24,
Bad
24.
conversation for me to miss then. I'm
Everything
so
I've been
good.
hearing-
Listen to our
Genius, you
episodes.
guys.
Send you a link.
Everything I've been hearing is that the Europeans are more excited about their series than we are. I think they're going to execute it better. I think they're going to have more buy-in and they're going to get more crowds for it. So due to that, the power shift could actually happen for the first time ever, that it leaves the US and goes overseas. Maybe it is time for a team pitch to salvage the sport. How
can
much
do
would
it.
we need? Let's talk actual. How much do you think it would take to get everyone you would consider a top 20? We can only speak for ourselves. So let's say the men, because I don't know what the women would accept. But if we each we wanted to sponsor a team, let's just say that each member of Race Brain was going to be a team manager. How much would we have to fundraise if we each wanted to have 3 members underneath us, or 4? What would it take to get
for a
them
race, for a series,
for this, for
what?
the rest of the series? Let's say Big Bear, Palmerton, and Mexico. We actually wanted to do it. It can't happen this year. It's too late. But if we were, how much would it take per athlete, do you think, to get them all excited enough to show up?
$3,000 per athlete.
Per athlete, per race.
Total. I think you'd get, if you pay their expenses.
You don't need a stipend. You just need get them there. Leave it up to them to
Damn,
make their money.
Okay. I mean, yeah. For 3 races.
I think to get them there and to put them up in a hotel, it's going to be $1,000 a race. 3 races, $3,000.
$3,000
Do you
per
think
person.
$1,000 per athlete is the minimum buy-in for a sponsor?
Per race.
$1,000 per athlete per race.
That's minimum.
Minimum.
And that's not talking any prize purse to the winning team or extra bonuses at the end of it. That's just get them there to bolster the rosters.
Yeah.
Minimum.
You'd get a few takers.
Yeah.
You'd get a few takers.
Maybe. Yeah. It's not that much.
No.
You might not see like Atkins or Lindsay do it, but I think you'd see the next pack of pretty high level athletes.
Well,
do
we're
it.
not offering it to Nicole. We already said that.
She's out.
Yeah.
She's out. I'll give her $2,000 not to show up.
It's for the sports betterment of the sport.
So, real quick, speaking on paying, Spartan actually paid on the spot. So just
Yes,
wanted
they
to
did.
give a shout
Saw
out
that.
there.
Did anyone
did.
cash it?
VJ was like, we're getting this mobile deposited right afterwards.
Yeah,
so,
dude.
Yeah.
That's a
Right.
big improvement.
Yeah.
That's great.
But anyway, back to what you said. I just wanted to give a shout out there because that was surprising.
All right.
Real talk.
Get on the phones.
Could
Real talk.
each of us come up with $6,000 in donations
I'm not donating $6,000.
for
No.
next year? Not of our own money.
Yeah, from
Oh.
like sponsors and stuff. Jack clearly can't. I could probably do it. Kirk could do it. Light work.
Yeah.
Jack's got to dip into his piggy bank.
Kirk's just got to sell a few shirtless
Student
pigs.
loans. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not your own money, Jack.
I know. I'm just pretending that was it.
$6,000 to save the series. Could you do it?
We could probably come up with it.
$9,000. It would probably have to be 3 people each for 3 races.
That's where you summon the fans of the sports and
Got
know
that Patreon.
Yeah, but
Patreon
all
money
4
is
of us
going
are
to
splitting all the
directly.
fans.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, if you were to
Cannibalize,
really,
yeah.
you see how much people care, and if they want to see propulsion of the sport, that'd be the way to do it. That'd be the.
I'm going to
simplest way
Dwight
do it.
Freeney.
Didn't he backed there was some was he Battle
Yeah.
Frog?
That's what I'm saying. I'm
No,
going with
Atlas
Dwight.
Race. He was Atlas Race. Yeah. Interesting.
We could do it. Let's make it happen. Good idea, whoever that was. And then ball's in our court, so we'll clearly execute.
Yeah. We've got to worry about the Okras first, paying those athletes. So.
That's true. Checks are in the mail.
Yep.
They bet in the mail.
I know. I'm a little worried.
We're getting close on time. I do want to talk about Hyrox. Can we shift?
Yes.
Can
Please.
we?
You ready?
Hard right. I'm not
ready to rock.
I do want to talk about my race, but the real news was Meg's race. Can we start there?
I wanted your hot take. Just get it over. I know it was Meg's race. Just get it over, Rich.
Well, the hot take is I think Meg's race was the most impressive hybrid Hyrox effort of all time. Unbelievable. Better than anything Hunter's ever done. Better than when Tobias came out of nowhere. Like what she was able to do on that course has not been duplicated.
Bob Beeman-esque improvement.
She
the long
cut
jump.
everything short.
It's the only explanation. She ran on a European course in America somehow.
In LA. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Was she better across the board? I'm sure you guys have dissected the splits, but was it everywhere that
She won,
time
like-
was chipped away?
Yeah.
It was most places. She basically maxed out the wall balls, so there's nowhere for her to go there. Her lunges were faster. I thought she had maxed those out. Her sled push was about as fast as she's ever been. Her runs were crazy.
30 low, right? 30 teens.
30 teens, and with her total time with Roxanne was 34 and change, I think. It was only I had a hard day, but my run time was only 15 seconds faster than hers.
Oof.
So she was really, really bringing it. And
First of all, you coached her.
I did.
We should give some sort of credit to you.
I'll take it.
Way to go, Rich.
Thank you.
The rest
job.
goes to Meg.
Most of it's for Meg. My poor performance is neutralized by what Meg did.
You were sunk into her training. You didn't have time for you.
That's true. I mean, I'm selfless.
Did anything in training in recent weeks indicate that this would happen?
She's
during your race?
she's always a pretty high performer in training. With just a shift in a couple of pieces in terms of stimulus, and I think just recovered a little bit better, a little bit more aggressive on the recovery side of things.
When I went to Sweden, she was obviously going to compete there, maybe not. Rich is like, hey, she might want to do doubles. She might not want to do a pro race. You should maybe message her if you're already going to be there. So I messaged her, said, hey, zero pressure, but if you wanted to do doubles, I'm going to be there anyway. And you can wait to make this decision at the last minute because I'll be there anyway. And I don't care if I don't race. She's like, hey, I appreciate it. I'm kind of torn right now. I just popped a couple workouts and I'm ready to go out and set a record. So this was 5 weeks ago.
Mhm.
6 weeks ago, she was talking, I'm ready to set a record. And then she ended up choosing to do doubles with Michaela. But 6 weeks ago, she was ready to pop something. And then she put in more work. So I think it justified what she was talking, but she was absolutely right. She was ready to do something stupid and she did it.
She skipped 60 minutes and 59 minutes from the old record. The old record was 61:12, I believe. And then she's like, 58:58. Let's do that. That's insane.
It truly is. And just say
So
that
people can, Rich, you would know this. This is a personal curiosity. Then for people who just are curious, what kind of running does it take? What would you think you would guesstimate her 5K time trial right now? Good conditions, feeling good, body fires. What kind of running does it take to perform as well as Meg Jacoby
she ran 17:20 recently.
in a recent 5K time trial?
Yeah,
And was
within the
happy with it?
past month. Yeah. Mhm. And
Okay, so low
not
17s.
tapered. Yeah. Her running is, I think her running is elevated above most of the competition, even though Lauren is rapidly improving her running as well. Meg's high end is higher than anyone else in the field.
And the course had everyone salivating.
Mhm.
And then it turned out not to be fast.
Kent
Yeah,
ran some
It was
numbers.
good.
It was good, fair course. The turns were
wasn't Euro.
tight. It didn't seem to be Euro, but the sleds moved really well. The sled push did move well. That was a faster sled push than we typically would see.
Mhm.
But
Did it move like your Home Depot carpet or?
no, not quite. It's probably the same carpet. The big long straightaways, really tight turns. Some feedback I have on the endorphins, not great on tight turns, but it was a fair course for sure. But Kent ran some numbers, and his run time was almost a minute slower than what his was at Houston. And he pulled back for sure, but I don't know if he pulled back by a minute on his runs.
People didn't come out of the push-pull like significantly ahead of what they'd been in the past. So they weren't set up from the start to be like, oh, this is going to be a day. She did.
She did, with a long run to start.
Yeah, it wasn't one of these courses where she gets done and 17 other people all PR. This wasn't that day. This kind of just cemented that she could go 57. Other places.
I wondered, I brought this up to Brack, and I don't think he agreed with me yesterday when we were chatting, I think off mic before we started recording, but I'd wondered if seeing Meg smash influenced then the mentality of all you fellas afterwards, thinking like you're just licking your chops. Hunter's like, new world record again. I'm going to go out so hot that because this is the course, and it misled a bunch of you guys following up thinking like, you probably thought like, I'm in. Mm-hmm. I am going to Worlds before you started. And then it was like such a good performance that it was so misleading for you fellas afterwards. Like it would have thrown me off if I was in your shoes.
We talked about it a little bit, and Kent and I, we were like, this is a trap that can definitely happen, because just because the course might look fast doesn't mean you should go faster. Like you still just need to do what you would typically do in a Hyrox. It's going to be 58 minutes instead of 59, but it's still a lot of work, and overextending early to try to take advantage of a fast course is probably a good way to turn a fast course into a regular course. I don't think we necessarily did that. And we'll get into my race, but I was like hopeful that I could do it. Everything was on hope. That day.
I messaged the group because I just kept refreshing the page, and I'm like, nah, that she's not done. She's starting the wall balls at 58, right? And I was like, did this just happen seriously? And then someone else, Belle McFarlane, I think she came in like 6 minutes later, and I'm like, this is
qualified,
incredible,
and ran a qualifying time.
Yep. So it's crazy.
Yeah, Belle really had a really strong race as well.
Definitely. But yeah, so Meg, just to put her performance into perspective, if you look across the board, male to female world records in track and run and swimming, it's typically about 10% slower for females versus men, 9.5 to 10.5%, like roughly 10% on average. That converts to about a 52 high or 53 flat in the men's field equivalent, and that's over a minute faster than what Hunter has. This is the best Hyrox performance has ever been.
She's the best athlete in Hyrox on the planet right now.
Yeah.
And she might not win Worlds. That's what's crazy. You know, that
the crazy
athletes that are right there with her.
Yeah. The crazy thing is that there's probably two other women who all think, okay, I think I can run 58s.
They have to think that, yeah.
Because they've all beat her and she's beat all them. They've seemed to be an even race this year. It's just whoever's day it is.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think she's popped one the way that maybe some others have. And she just did. So maybe they can't pop quite as high, but there's probably two more sub 60 women right now already.
Mm-hmm. Michaela's going to be like, she's had some health issues. I don't think she's training like at all. So I don't know how ready she's going to be, but Lauren's going to be ready. You know, nothing that gets you ready for Hyrox, like pretending to be in the military for 48 hours, you know? That's the move. We'll see. But yeah, like these splits across the board, I mean, maybe there's time in burpee broad jumps, but everything else is like.
Her ski is fantastic.
Her ski's really good. Her row is strong. Her row is about the same. Yeah, that's usually a good sign if they can kind of equal out.
Yeah.
And the lunges, 243 is like no joke.
That's hard fresh.
For sure.
And then clearly it had no impact on her legs because she goes 316 on the wall balls. That's ridiculous.
I don't think she can I don't think there's a scenario in which she breaks the wall balls. I don't think she could do anything in front of a wall ball that would
maybe 100 wall balls before 100 wall balls.
She has to fully crack.
Yeah. Like I don't know what she could possibly do.
Life just got tougher for Miriam.
Yeah.
Because I think a bunch of us thought she's the one that's going to play spoiler close down the last 3 stations and maybe catch someone and maybe could even win a world title because she's been there next to Meg at the end. But Meg just took her running up a notch, and you don't see people take their running up a notch and their stations at the same time. It almost never happens. Never. It's one or the other.
She's like Nicole. She's the best runner and the best obstacler. Meg's the best at the zones and the best runner. It's like, it's hard to beat.
Can I play a little devil's advocate here, just briefly? Not devil's advocate, but a worthwhile question would be, we've seen athletes break through before, right? Like Michaela went and smashed a time somewhere. And then we just saw Hunter go through and run 54 and all this. Hyrox is one of those races where you have to get it all so perfect in order for something like this to happen. Can she duplicate this again? Or is it like you got one Hyrox, fired a shot every season where it's going to come together? Is it possible to even duplicate something like this? Because you don't see it happen very often. The person who wins worlds other than Hunter has fired their shot at the right time, at the right place, because it's such a place where you need to split hairs and get it right. Do you know what I'm getting at here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do we think about that? Is she just that good? It doesn't matter. This is repeatable.
The main thing that came to my mind, and someone I spoke to her about briefly, was like, this was kind of a time trial, right? This wasn't necessarily like a race. And how can you replicate these type of results when there's someone else putting pressure on, or when you need to put pressure on someone else, right? And and she has not won a championship race this year, right? So that's the main question.
It's a good point. It's almost like, and you're the one coaching her, not me, but it's almost like she's at the point now where she has to start prepping for a championship race. She almost has to start doing partial and full sims against guys side by side. Like, she's not going to have a female who's going to push her in training. Like, she's like where the top boxers and fighters and runners are, where they train with men now, because that's what's going to take them to the next level. She almost has to do that. She almost has to have someone like in short sims or something, like you next to her, pass her on the sled and push her on the next run. And then her job is, you must catch back up on the next thing. She's starting to get into the championship mindset tweaks. Not that that's necessarily the way to go, but you're right. She's checked all the boxes. Now she has to execute under 3 or 4 different circumstances.
She's 58. How many guys are there?
I was just going to say, there's not many dudes who are going to be pushing her.
Rich can barely keep up with her.
I know.
On women's
another
weight.
thing. I was like, now your PR is better than mine, and I don't think I like that very much.
Is she fired now, or are you going to keep her on as an athlete?
Well, we're going to see. Let's see if I can get my shit together and then make myself feel a little bit better,
What could you do in women's weight?
Oh, I don't know. On the pro, what Dieter do? 55, so way faster than that.
52.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, you're right. She's just got to do it in championship. And I think that's the biggest feather in her cap, actually, is that she's not going to come in with the world record hubris. She's not going to remember this great race that didn't crush me that terribly bad. And it was easy. And whenever you do something fast, you think, all right, that's where I start next time. And then we get better. When in reality, that might have been the best you'll ever run. Can't count on this is my baseline now, because it can't be. So she'll remember the last championship race as much as she remembers the PR race. And a lot of people haven't had that in the past. They pop a big PR and then they crack at championship because they forgot how hard Hyrox is.
Happened
I'm
to
not doubting her ability at all. It's just like, if you look through the theme of time, it's really tough to be that person repeatedly in one season. Have we seen anybody do that? I mean, Hunter had some good performances, won the world champs that one year, but he laid an egg before, I think, his win, didn't he?
He did a good job of that. He did a good job of almost this blueprint last year, where he set the world record in Dallas, and then it was probably about 5 weeks into world championships and came out and just murdered.
But I don't know if we've seen anybody else do that. Have we?
No, the Euros, they seem to want to be as prepared as possible for every single race from the start of the season. So I don't know.
I would probably hate you if I lived in over in the EU. So I really, and you're starting to see it on their posts and on comments. They're starting to just be like, Oh, Tim was in there. Americans just seem to love to talk. We'll see about this.
I saw he said that under Kent's post, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
True.
sounding a lot like Kempson versus VJ. Maybe we need a little Europe versus America right here.
Dude.
Rich, I feel like this would be a good time for you to start your rant.
I don't really have a rant.
Hot take.
My hot take was Meg's take, but on my accord, like, it's like I've had opportunities now, right? I can't just be crying about, oh, if I had a European course, I should have made it, right? My issue had been the lack of opportunities is certainly the issue. I haven't had a chance to really test myself against high level competition. Not saying that these regional races aren't, but like, they're 3 to 4 guys deep. I haven't had a chance to race against anybody. I'm not going to get to race Magida. I'm not going to get to race Dylan. I'm not even going to get to race people who are on the other side of our country, let alone the best athletes in the world. And so that's just like, like the system that they set up. And I just failed to execute and qualify to what their standard is, which I disagree with. But at this point, I've had enough opportunities to try, so, and I just didn't have what it took in training is where I fucked things up. But so that's just where I'm at right now. I'm not feeling like, oh, if only I was European, I'd be there. Probably.
How so did you mess things up in training?
I got a little hurt.
Oh,
That's side joint, right?
I mean, that's not messing it up.
Kind of.
I mean, unless you knew you dug that grave in the process.
I had to be aggressive, right? Like I had to, like there could potentially been some signs that I needed to back off, but really I kind of expedited my training where I had a timeline to lead to Manchester. I had to make that timeline be Anaheim, which is 4 or 5 weeks up, right? So I kind of rushed things on that end.
You should tell Kirk one of your big interval sessions.
Oh yeah, I did I was doing big threshold set interval sessions, and I started with, I had been building, right? But then I was like, I want to get big chunks of time in. So I did 14 by 3 minutes, then 14 by 3.5 minutes, then 13 by 4 minutes. And I think
with what kind of effort and what kind of recovery?
Threshold effort and 40 seconds.
You did
nasty.
You did 14 by 3 minutes?
Yes. And then ended at 13 by 4.
In 1
40
session.
seconds rest. Yep.
Yeah.
So basically 52 hard minutes over the course of an hour, roughly.
Did you leave your race in that workout on accident?
I felt fine.
When did your SI start?
So the SI thing was on, I think it was due to some travel. Like I was doing those workouts and then I traveled for a wedding, and I think it's more postural than anything.
How many days after that workout was it?
The 2.
So unrelated.
Yeah. I think it's just postural. I think like I have like a little bit too much anterior pelvic tilt, and like just the volume on top of it, and with the intensity on the other aspects, it just was like a little bit too much.
That's more threshold in a session.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how many minutes of threshold does that add up to? Bracken, you're great at math.
50 something, right?
52, right?
13 times 4. Yeah.
Jack already said it.
Jack was already there.
I wasn't getting there.
And then 40 seconds rest times 13. That's a little under 8 minutes. So yeah.
Okay.
I've never gone under 45 seconds of rest on a true threshold interval of anything longer than 90 seconds in duration. And I've never gone over 40 minutes, maybe 45 of true threshold intervals in a session. And not that I'm the gold standard, but even when I've been fit and healthy, you went over on both sides, less rest and significantly more, 12 more minutes of work and probably 4 less minutes of rest.
So the whole idea with the season is not to qualify for Worlds, it's to perform well at Worlds. And if I looked at it from a perspective, like I'm not going to be able to beat Hunter and Kent at their game. Like I'm not going to be able to outpush them on the sled, but I can outrun them, So if I could get as fast as possible over that course of that type of duration, that I think is my best bet to perform at my highest level of Hyrox. So I took a risk, but I just sped it up. Like I think that could have been, if I maybe organized the rest a little bit different, or just give myself a longer timeline to kind of get there. Like I think I could have handled it, But
what's threshold pace for you right now? What were you hitting for 5-minute intervals?
520, 521s and 524s. It was on the treadmill. So it wasn't like
So like a little over 11 miles an hour. Yeah.
yeah. So it was a lot of volume.
Not a fun workout.
Not,
At altitude.
Yeah, this shit was boring. Boring. But
That's the thing. 520 at altitude.
yeah, on the treadmill.
Probably.
On a
1% or 0%
1%.
for your grade. 1%.
1%, bro. Come on, bro.
The real way. Yeah.
If you're gonna wuss out and run on a treadmill, might as well give it that 1%.
Exactly.
So why do you think it didn't translate? Because then you couldn't keep up the training consistency like you wanted to come through on race day, and you weren't able to glue it all together appropriately.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
I basically had to take 2 weeks off of running because of this thing. And that's like, the fitness is still around.
Run
but,
economy
like,
goes to shit in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think so.
Mechanical
Like,
goes away.
Mechanical efficiency is tough.
And yeah, I could tell in my respiration rate that was suffering. And so I was in pain on Wednesday last week. Like, could try to test it out, couldn't run. So just like took the rest of the week basically off and just like crossed my fingers and hoped that I would be healthy enough to even start it. And I was, and it doesn't hurt anymore now. Just run a Hyrox, recover. That's how you do it. I was talking with Chris Rogloski, and took up her recovery methods, just like do an ultra, feel better, run a Hyrox, no more pain, fixes it.
Really
so
flushes it out is what it does.
It's from a medical term.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So yeah,
Do you want to? Yeah.
Go ahead,
I
John.
was just gonna say, if we were just gonna talk more on the weekend, I was impressed with the Nas because he was between you and Kent. That was a good performance by him.
I still don't think he's racing right. He goes out way
He's
too
aggressive.
hard. He's so aggressive. He held on this time. He had a different. He had a nutrition plan that he thinks helped him a little bit.
His recoverability, if that's a thing, is improving.
Mm-hmm.
Like your fitness can show up in being faster or from recovering from dings better. That's what he did there. He didn't necessarily get faster. He got back on the horse after starting to blow up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I
Which
could
is
tell
tough to do.
from just the row, and the row in Dallas, he was like getting worse and worse. And that's when things really kind of separated. And that was happening like my row was faster than his, but that was my last stand. If you light all your matches at once, like it's like lighting a firework, I just like sent it up in flames, and then I had nothing. I came up
Hunter.
Yeah, what do you guys make of Hunter's performance out there?
Is it VJ-esque in terms of excuses? Like that would Kempson have interpreted like that? It's like, oh, I didn't have it today, so I just didn't race.
He didn't even say that. He said, I went for the world record and I started to pop. So he just dropped out. He started to blow up. His exact quote was that I went for it and I cracked.
Yeah.
Pretty early too.
After
Did you see his runs though?
He was going.
Did you rewatch it?
I started to, yeah. And this his ski. He was skiing like 135s, even if that's just a start, even if that's for like 100 meters.
He was all the way to 400
fast.
at that point. And I told Kirk this. I was watching it in disbelief. Watching his first and then his second run, I told Kirk, I said, either he is on everything known to man or this is not sustainable. And I hate to even think that about him, but he was running too aggressively. It wasn't even the speed. It was the stride he was using. He's always like that compact metronome, and he was in full flight, aggressive. It was scary to watch, thinking if this is real, oh my, like nothing will ever happen good for anyone ever again. And then like it almost like affirmed my faith in humanity when he dropped out. It's like, thank God. Cause yeah, no human can do that. What he was trying to do.
Yeah. He's trying
It was
to
crazy how quick it happened.
Yeah.
Sleds alone and Kent was right back in it.
Like
It was a great narrative for him to create for himself, though. He does real well after his face gets rubbed in, his nose gets rubbed in something. And it's probably the best thing for him, long-term world championship, even though it stings at the moment. But, anytime Hunter bides this time in a race, it ends up going well for him, doesn't it?
Well,
generally,
I think if he gets beat outright, I think that was his plan, right? There was murmurs before that he was going to go as hard as he can for as long as he possibly can, right? Which ended up being a state 2.5
3:19 second run.
Oh, is that what it was? Really?
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Jeez.
That's ridiculous.
That's the fastest second run in history.
And so he's giving himself a bit of an out, right? Like when he got beat at North American Championships, he got beat. So he had to kind of go back to the drawing board and really kind of go into that psycho mode that he will go into. And here he's probably like, if I just race it a little bit different, like it probably won't be that way. And I think that that's true if he's a little bit more humble in his approach. Then I think that it will be a real race up front, but Kent caught him fast. It's not like he caught him at Burpee Broad Jumps. He caught him at the sled.
Sled was significantly better.
And he like reeled him in on the run after the sled push. Like he blew up pretty quick. I mean, he was going way, way too fast. He wasn't doing anything sustainable.
He rarely misfires like that. I'm trying to think of times in which in his whole career he's misfired like that.
Yeah, they're Hyrox World Champs. Yeah, when he got 4th.
So he did this almost same strategy last year. This was 2 weeks before the World Championship, though. And I don't hate, like, I don't love that he dropped out because he wasn't going to win or because he wasn't going to set a record. Like, that's not awesome. But he did this last year too. I think he made it a little bit further, made it through like 4 or 5 stations where he was just going to kind of push it in like a speed workout. And my coach would do this for us in college where it's like, okay, you're going to run 3K of the 5K as a workout and then just peel off and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of did that in terms of like a race strategy. And I don't think he was there to race anybody. But I'm not that impressed.
It shows what the power of pacing is, like how when you tip over slightly, what it does to you. Because like 325 may be sustainable. Just that 6 seconds over, and he didn't even make it through one more station before he started to crack. He made it down in 3 pushes, back in 3, and then he was like 6. Like it was gone 2 lengths of the sled in.
US
Not
sleds.
even another run after that.
US sleds gave it to him. Gives it
You
to
just
everybody.
can't.
He's a Euro racer
miss.
Yeah.
He is. But you can't miss early. You just can't.
No.
If you're Kenton or Magida and you see this heading into Worlds, are you like, maybe he's not as, invincible?
For sure.
Doesn't
gotta feel
check
great.
the box in the positive column on Hunter's behalf.
No.
You were talking that Kent was talking that he's not in prime fitness right now.
Is his hamstring good?
Yeah, he seems healthy. He kind of ran. He just wanted to come and duplicate what he did in Houston, and he basically did that to a T.
Yeah,
he was almost exactly the same, and just like pulled the pedal off. He like kind of broke too long on wall balls and stuff, and just kind of trotted in a little bit. But he had almost the same exact time.
Yeah. What's Dylan Scott thinking? He's been off the radar.
Dylan's just working.
He's been doing infinite threshold.
He's the only person to do more threshold in 52 minutes.
He ain't doing that running. I'll tell you that much. His threshold pace is like 7 minutes though. That's how you shit talk. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting for World Championships. And what do the Euros got, right? Like Tim did have a really good race recently.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex Ronkovic, he's not afraid. Where's Sandy gonna be? Who knows? Who the heck knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like you just can't. You almost can't engage with Hunter in any capacity, like racing or like digitally. You can't like take anything that he's doing in his world and make it have any impact on your world. And I think that he's been able to do that in this space fairly effectively just by doing the whole blowhard thing. But now it's like, do we kind of get your game? Like, are you going to be able, like, I don't know. It's going to be fun.
There are people you can race side by side with, and it does not feel like being next to him. He has this gravitational pull in a weird way. Like he's a vacuum of energy. It's really hard to be calm near him in a race. He pulls different feelings out of people. And for some people, it's the best out of them. But for most people, they cannot exist in his oxygen. Like he takes it away from them. And it's a dominant, like it's what all the dominant athletes have, that aura around them that just people can't be in the same room as them without being affected one way or the other. And he has that, but he's had more and more like blips now than he ever used to have. And he's giving some hope.
it's similar to Kipchoge getting sixth at the Boston Marathon. It's like, you didn't think that he could get beat, and now we've seen him lose a couple, and other people are throwing up fast times. That gives you a little bit of hope.
So I'm not sure what my season's going to be. You guys gave me some advice. I might ignore it. Might try to see what else is out there.
Kirk didn't chime in. I want to hear it.
Yeah, he did. He was like,
Did he?
sit your ass at home.
Yeah. I missed it, Kirk.
Nobody acknowledged my advice.
I
You
saw.
don't acknowledge ours.
There was lots of messages in the group chat. Kirk's came through, and then it got piled on with a bunch of
As
other
it
messages.
always
But
does.
I did see it.
I didn't see it. I'm gonna look it up right
I
now.
just
I
said
saw
stay
it.
home. Not worth it.
Yeah.
At this point.
Kirk was
We
very
don't know.
upfront. Don't do it.
Worth it.
What's your ROI then? Like, I mean, obviously, money aside, all that. Like, obviously, this is like, what's your ROI? What's ROI? What's best case scenario you'd hope to get out of still qualifying?
I just want to race against those guys. I think it's crazy that I haven't had a single opportunity to do so. And if nothing else, get some feedback about international competition, seeing where everyone else is at, seeing how they race, feeling what's up against them, and seeing where I'm stacking up. If I can string together a couple good weeks of training, like my fitness should be back real quick. If I can run for 2 weeks, which
when's Copenhagen?
The 12th, May 12th.
Third,
Not this weekend, not next
13th,
weekend.
Yeah.
Well, it can happen in 3 weeks.
So would you do it as just that? I'm not going in with the pressure of qualifying. I'm just getting a taste for what I have to do next year.
I would probably not. I would probably try to not put the pressure on the time and just be like, let's see where I can execute and see what this is. And European racing, it is faster, but it is a different style, right? So I want to kind of prepare these 2 weeks to see if I can prepare for their style of racing and see how it goes.
Do you know who's going?
No, not
I
worried
bet.
about it.
This is more of a
Anybody in the
long-term
class.
play than anything. Like, even if you wouldn't qualify, you would still look at this as a win or a learning experience. So you wouldn't come home defeated if your time didn't match what needed to be done.
And it's like, at least I tried, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's an opportunity here. It's stupid. It's excessive. It shouldn't have to be this way, but there is still an opportunity. So I could sit here and just cry about these courses that I've had a couple opportunities to race, or I could just see where I stack up.
What would you do if one of your athletes was in this situation? Sitting in 18th, real close.
If it was up to, I mean, if there was nothing else on the horizon and if like there wasn't financial implications, like I'd probably encourage it.
What would happen to you if you went over there and ran another 59 or 60?
Mm-hmm.
What would that do to you?
That would be, I think I could live with that. Could still like, all right, I went after it. It's
You'd
like,
rather know.
I'd rather know.
Do you
It
kind of
sounds
see
like
it?
you need to know.
Yeah.
I think I need to know.
Does
I
sound
sort
like
of
you
see
need
it
to
like
know.
one of those last chance meets in track where everybody's got to get under like the whatever the automatic standard is, and half the people make it and then a bunch of people blow up, but they at least wanted to be there and give it a shot, knowing that other people were there because that's their only chance that they can prove it.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, the season really was lined up to perform well at World Championships, and that's a thing that would be easy to be like, it's going to be hard to turn this thing around and race well again with this type of time difference and with this travel. And I think that is right, but I also don't know, I also don't know.
When are you going to decide by?
I'm pretty soon. I'm on them.
He already bought it.
I'm on that Google Flights.
Your
So
travel
some
agent,
money.
Jack, was
Rich,
putting
make
itineraries
sure
together
you
for
use incognito mode so that they don't track your cookies. Because if you keep looking at the same flight patterns, they know to raise the prices because they know you want to buy it. Supply and demand right there.
You got 10,000. You got
Powerlift dollars.
Have
Okay,
them,
that's
have
true.
them just float you a little.
Right. I might ask, be like, hey, what can I do for, what would you like in return? Like podcast read? That's valuable.
Yeah.
Reinforced Running Podcast, heard of it?
Mhm.
You guys get a lot of international clicks. I'm going to head over international.
Yeah, it's thing,
What-
10,000's not international.
What day would you be thinking? Thursday or Wednesday?
Probably try
Over
to get there Thursday
Couple days
afternoon, Wednesday
yeah.
afternoon or so. Yeah. We'll see what the best option is.
Yeah.
When are you going to change your podcast name from Reinforced Running to like Reinforced Hybrid or whatever?
Go the Mappy Davis route. Just be like, hey,
HFX.
it's his hybrid now.
Worth considering.
I loved that the hybrid racing media was asking questions about hybrid rules and racing on the live stream.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, you should have done that under your burner.
Yeah. That B Mavis. He put a freaking, I was all cranky. I was being a little bitch after the race. He put his post was like an OCR photo of mine. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is this? Like, take that shit down. I can't.
He doesn't have access to anyone. He's gonna get summoned.
That's true. That is true. I should ask him to take that shit down. We are at our time cap. We're slightly over. This week on the Running Public, what do we got?
What do we got, Bracken?
Oh, mishmash. We've done both these episodes in the past, but spring racing and watching Boston and the 3K reinforced to us the importance of training to the test and pacing properly. So we talked both those topics.
You got new listeners, maybe. When people forget these type of lessons, just run them back. You should just put it on a calendar for like the year. Just be like, that's what we do on Race Brain.
Late April. Yeah.
We just do the same
Guess
shit.
the season started again.
Yeah.
Better talk about it.
Should we talk about the same stuff we talked about?
Yeah.
Got a guess?
Chogi blowing up, saying, I didn't train. I'm not going to prep for the hills. I'm doing what I always do. It's just a good reminder that some things like a hilly marathon or a 3K, they need specificity.
Is that what he said?
Yep.
Yeah,
Did what he always did. It's what works. Right up until it doesn't.
Guess can't argue. Yeah, that's how you learn. That's how you learn.
How about you, Rich? What's going on? You putting on an episode this week? You got anything good?
I did. No, I just kind of went over what I learned from the past race and just like the training stuff that we touched on a little bit here. Just like kind of screwing up the lesson learned. Like, don't speed up the training. Like, trust is better than hope. There was a whole lot of hope, man. Lots of fingers, a lot of finger crossing going into that race. That's for damn sure. That doesn't always work. That's how I always felt in OCR. It's like, well, I fucking hope I can run this course. I hope I can go down these hills and I hit the spear. And it doesn't yield great results.
Yeah.
All right.
I was on OCR Weekly with Matt, so go listen to that for a recap of the weekend.
Hybrid Weekly, what was it like? How was it?
We talked about Go Rec Games and Hyrox. Well, briefly Hyrox because he wanted to do that for a different show because I think he was having Meg on. And then Spartan 3K. So yeah, listen to it.
I still wonder how you have a job, like on race weeks when you do predictions and summaries and you're on here and you're on there. I'm like, how does Jack hold down a job? How do you keep this
really
under the
smart.
radar?
Here, right
valuable.
here. This is the list of projects that I need to get done for my company by the end of this week.
Easy.
So
Stressful. Seems easy.
it's not.
Who's winning the
back to New Hampshire tomorrow? So.
Who's winning the prediction contest?
Rich, you want to know how you did?
Yeah.
We all want to know.
3rd place.
Damn.
I got like
Jeez.
I got like 15th. Kirk was about 20th. Matt was 8th. I'll
didn't
post it
even
later. So
I am on fire right now, outside of athletically. Prediction wise, I am smashing.
You're balanced out.
Yeah.
Life's about balance. This is great. This is how I hope it would happen, that I could.
And Meg's winning, so there you
stupid
go.
3K things that don't even matter. There's 5 people that race. They just put all 5 of the people who finish the race, and you get a bunch of points for it.
Here's the Philly
That's
that we
hottest
needed.
take. Yeah.
All right, squad. We're out. Wait, hold on. We're not out yet.